Chapter 638. On the road from the capital to Jiannamlai, 3 riders were riding through the dust. One of them looked much weaker. He was leaning on the horse, and his face was pale. The other 2 were a man and a woman. They looked much better than this person. They didn't look tired, and their bodies followed the rhythm of the horse, making it easier for the horse to run. However, the 3 of them didn't speak. They urged their horses forward. After an hour, they came to a stop and changed horses. The one with the weaker physique sat down on the ground. He tried to struggle to stand up, but to no avail. He said to the other 2, "You guys go first. I can't take it anymore. I need to take a break. You guys can make arrangements when you arrive. You're a man, but you're not as good as a woman? You're holding us up," the woman said to the man sitting on the ground. "Look at you. How are you a woman? When you do things, you're a tomboy. I told you not to come, but you insisted. It's useless." The man was not happy. "Han Xianfeng, is this how you treat someone who saved your life? If I didn't use acupuncture and medicine to save you, you'd be dead. You need to know how to repay kindness." The woman turned her head and said to Han Xianfeng. Han Xianfeng let out a long sigh. There was nothing he could do, so he didn't hurry. He sat down next to that person and said, "Mi Fan, I'll remember this. If there's a chance in the future, I'll force you to train. Tell me, how many things have you delayed? I don't know why the young master called you here. Am I good? Yesterday when we were on the road, I reminded you first. That's why you didn't fall into the ditch. You're ungrateful." Mi Fan panted heavily for a while. She rubbed her hand gently on her leg and grimaced in pain as she drank some water. "Yes, ungrateful. Han Xianfeng, we're talking about you. You don't even care about saving your life. Are you still a man?" The woman next to him found an opportunity to scold Han Xianfeng. Han Xianfeng looked up the sky and said helplessly, "Ju Meilong, I beg you, don't keep talking about saving my life. I was just tired from the boat race. That was Sanshui County's Xiao Luo Shui. How could I die? Not to mention exhaustion, even if he was really injured. Would there not be a good doctor? I managed to dock the boat with great difficulty and wanted to find a car to take me to get a massage, but you jumped out from the side. Without saying anything, you pushed me to the ground and stabbed me with several needles. I don't even know where you got the medicine and forced it down my mouth." "Nonsense. I'm a famous doctor who is proficient in both the pen and the sword. I picked the medicine myself and specially used it to treat fainting spells. My medical skills are definitely high, otherwise, how could you be awake when I was performing acupuncture on you?" Jiao Mei's cold face reddened slightly, but she continued to argue. "I want to close my eyes and rest for a while. You're pricking me so much that my whole body hurts. How can I not wake up? And that medicine, why would it treat fainting? It's more like it's for intestinal blockage. The strength that I saved up after resting with great difficulty was all thrown to the toilet. If your medical skills are high, why don't you go to Huayuan County's De Hospital to find a job? Why do you insist on following me?" When Han Xianfeng thought about what happened that day, his face turned as pale as Mi Fan's, and his body trembled. It must have left a deep impression on him. Jiao Mei touched the bag on her back, which contained her needles and herbs. She said, embarrassedly, "Who said that I didn't go to the hospital? But they said that I still needed to practice. They asked me to go to Yaowang Mountain to massage others and identify the acupuncture points. I'm a woman, so how can I go there? I wanted to practice slowly. I walked all the way looking for patients, and then I met you. I saved you out of kindness, and I heard that you were close to the Zhang family. I was hoping that you would arrange for me to go to Huayuan Hospital when you repay my kindness. Who would have thought that you're such an ungrateful person? Fine, I'm scared of you. Don't mention saving lives. I don't have the ability to arrange for you to go to the hospital. They don't hire people based on personal relationships. With your medical skills, even if you sneak in, how many patients will you kill, let alone take a normal exam?" Han Xianfeng was tortured to death. If Jiao Meilong wasn't alone and didn't have a family, and if she hadn't been observed by the Zhang family spies, and if they hadn't found out that she had other skills, they would never have allowed her to follow them. This woman was indeed good-looking, especially her figure. If she didn't always wear a dirt-gray robe and change into other colors, many men would definitely yearn for her. But this woman was always muddle-headed. Her so-called medical skills could have become a nickname in some county in the past, but she insisted on going to Huayuan County and Sanshui County to treat patients. What were those two places for? Sanshui County was the foundation of the Zhang family and Wang family. Han Xianfeng only joined the first family in Linshui County after passing the test. He was the son of an official and didn't give any face during the test. How could the medical standards there be bad? As for Huayuan County's Day Hospital, it was the pinnacle of the Tang Dynasty's medical science. Even the imperial doctors in the palace had to go there frequently to communicate. Every year, they would be tested to decide whether to stay in the palace or not. What could a half-baked doctor like you do in such a place? At this time, Mi Fan said something fair. Mrs. Jiu, actually, there's nothing wrong with massaging. Doctors shouldn't discriminate between men and women. In the eyes of doctors, there are only healthy people and patients. Day Hospital wants to give all ordinary doctors a chance. Going there to give massages requires skill. After you go there, remember the acupuncture points clearly. After passing the test, you might have a chance to enter the medical school to study. The research there is unparalleled in the world. This time I didn't want you to come, but when I saw you, I suddenly felt that you might have other benefits. So, Xianfeng, look at him. He's flirting with me. Listen to him, he wants to get benefits from me. I'm a woman, what benefits do I have? Won't you help me? Then you're ungrateful. Mi Fan, how could you flirt with Zhou Meiling? Come. Let's get on the horses and have 100 rounds. Han Xianfeng was scared. Before Zhou Meiling could finish, he helped Mi Fan, who had rested for a while, onto a horse. The two rode off first. Zhou Meiling stood where she was, tilting her head and thinking. She also pulled over a horse and mounted it. She was much faster than Han Xianfeng and Mi Fan. After 100 feet, she reacted and shouted, Han Xianfeng, stop right there. How dare you lie to me? What skills do I have to be chosen by Mi Fan? Medical skills? Humph, you want to get rid of me? In your dreams. My horse can only run 6 steps in one breath. The one you control can only run 5.5 steps. The distance is about 120 feet. This military horse can run 6 feet per step. In 400 breaths, I'll catch up to you. Maozhou, Tonghua County was a small county. There were not many people coming and going. The local people also lived their own lives. Everyone spent time traveling to the county every day. However, such a small county was always bustling at the middle and beginning of each month. The people who came from neighboring counties and from further places all came early because there were a few horse companies here that specialized in buying and selling horses. Whether it was buying or selling horses, if one's eyes were sharp enough and his mouth was sharp enough, he could achieve his goal. There were so many horse companies here. Some were bought from other counties, and some seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. No one knew whether it was because no one was willing to investigate or because they didn't want to. That was how the horse companies in Tonghua County survived. There were dozens of small horse companies, but not 100. Many horse companies didn't have fixed positions. As long as you brought in a dozen horses at one time, others would admit that you were a horse company. There were 4 largest horse companies here. They were named East, West, North, and South. The one named East was called Donghua Horse Company, and so were the others. The 4 horse companies competed with each other, but at the same time, they worked together. Among them, Donghua Horse Company seemed to be the leader. The owner of Donghua Horse Company was surnamed Yan. It was said that he had fled here 30 years ago. At that time, he was alone with a 6-year-old son. He had the ability to identify horses. At first, he looked after the livestock for the local people. Later, he found horses from other places and sold them here. Little by little, his family business was established. 15 years ago, his son married the daughter of a local rich family, and Donghua Horse Company was established. Over the past 15 years, the Ma Trading Company had grown bigger and bigger. Not only did Master Yin own the business, but he had also taught 3 of his disciples. They had all established their own businesses and were the owners of the other 3 Ma Trading Companies. Most outsiders would not know what was going on inside. Identifying a horse was a skill. If you didn't know how to identify a horse, it was obviously a bad one. Even if you spent the money on a good one, no one would refund you. As time passed, more and more people could tell whether a horse was good or bad. Tonghua's 4-family horse company came up with a new strategy. Horse gambling was only open for about 2 hours. In the morning, before the sun rose, someone would prepare many horses in the shed. If they liked one, they would pay and take it away. Every horse was the same price, priced at 20 strings of coins. Some people had good eyesight or good luck. They bought a fine horse and became rich overnight. More people bought an ordinary horse or even a sick horse. Ordinary horses had 10 strings of coins, and some had a few strings of coins. They could only pull carriages. As for a sick horse, if it was cured, it could be sold for a little money. If it could not be cured, it was not worth a single cent. Today was the first day of the new moon. Those who came last night or even earlier waited outside the stable before dawn, hoping that they would be lucky enough to get a good horse. The people of the horse company were also prepared. They looked at the sky and gave orders. The road to the stable was opened, and everyone rushed in like a tide. Chapter 639. As soon as this voice was heard, the people picking the horses inside became anxious. They were afraid that the good horses they had their eyes on would be snatched away. Those who did not have the financial resources and courage to participate in the horse gambling curiously sized up the person, wanting to see who had the financial resources to buy all the horses. Horse gambling was not just a few dozen horses for people to choose from. Every time there were 1,000 horses, no more and no less. If one wanted to buy all of them, they would have to take out 20,000 strings of coins. 2 years ago, someone did this once. He thought that he could get a few fine horses, but in the end, he spent 20,000 strings of coins. There was not a single fine horse among the 1,000 horses. In the end, he sold the 1,000 horses and only got back 5,000 strings of coins. He could not afford to lose more than that. At that time, this person came to ask why there were no fine horses. The people of the horse trading company were not afraid of trouble. No one said that there must be a fine horse among the horses. No one forced anyone to buy a horse. If there was no fine horse, there would be no fine horse. However, there were always horses with a value of more than 50 strings of coins. There were also horses with a value of more than 100 strings of coins. Using 20 strings of coins to buy a horse with a value of 100 strings of coins, was it not enough to earn 10 strings of coins? Perhaps there would be a chance for a military horse to appear. It was not bad to give it away. In the end, no one knew what kind of method each person used. The people who bought the horses left dejectedly. The 4 horse trading companies were still standing tall. Some people said that the owner of the horse trading company gave a fine horse to the local officials. Some people said that the owner of the horse trading company had a big backer. There was no conclusion for a while. They did not expect that there would be another person who wanted to buy all the horses today. Everyone had the intention to watch the show. They wanted to see what the final result would be. Usually, the people who bought the horses would immediately watch here to find a good horse trainer. Today, the 2 people on the horses did not know which one was the horse trainer. If the person behind was the owner, then the person in front was naturally the horse trainer. However, the person in front was too young. No one believed that he could judge the horses. Could it be that the owner personally judged the horses? The people who had entered the stable hadn't paid yet, so they naturally couldn't bet on horses anymore. One by one, they walked out angrily, their eyes looking at the 2 newcomers. It could be said that they were brimming with killing intent. The big deal was here, and the people of the horse company invited the owner out. There were 4 horse companies and 4 owners. The owner of the East Hua Horse Company looked to be less than 40 years old, while the owners of the other 3 horse companies were slightly older. As for the old owner of the East Hua Horse Company that everyone was looking forward to seeing, he did not appear. Greetings to the 2 of you. Were the 2 of you the ones who wanted to buy all of the horses? Dong Hua Horse Company's boss Yen cupped his fists and asked. That's right. The person on the front dismounted and turned back to help the person on the back, as he answered casually. Everyone looked at the 2 people under the light of the lanterns and found that the 2 people were indeed wearing good clothes. They were wearing Sichuan brocade robes. The person with the identity of the master had a round jade pendant the size of a copper coin on his waist. When the light flashed, it was blood red. If it was not dyed, it would be worth a lot of money. Boss Yen glanced at the 2 people and said, according to the rules, once sold, there is no refund. Have the 2 of you thought about it? I know. Pay up. The owner ordered, and the person next to him took out a luo of flying money from the money bag on his shoulder. There were a total of 20 pieces, and each piece was worth 1,000 strings of coins. After someone checked the flying money and confirmed that there was no mistake, the 4 owners had a trace of a smile on their faces. While writing the receipt, they asked someone to call for the horse driver. It seemed that the 2 people could not drive the horses back themselves, so they could only pay someone to drive them. If it was not too far away, the horse company would arrange for someone to drive the horses. They would not take the money to drive the horses. After all, they were big customers. After ordering someone to bring tea to the best shelter for resting, Boss Yen said to the other party's master, how should I address this honored guest? Do you want to look at the horses first? No need to look at the horses. When the other horse markets open, we will buy enough and take them back together. The owner brushed his robes and placed the jade pendant on his leg. His thumb and index finger naturally touched it, appearing a bit arrogant. Then where does Boss Chen want to go? If it is not too far away, we will immediately arrange for someone to help you. Does Boss Chen want to buy a few horses that are pleasing to your eyes? Yen Dongjia carefully sized up this old Master Chen and asked with a smile. Buy. In a while, as long as the price is right, buy all of them. I am preparing to build a horse farm in Luoyang province. If it is not too troublesome, send them there. Oh, it seems that your horse company is not bad. You can help me find other horses that are 30% more expensive than the market price. Buy as many as you have. If there are mules, oxen, donkeys, and other livestock, that is fine too. Old Master Chen continued. When the people beside him heard that it was Luoyang province, they realized that it was not too far away. If they slowly drove the horses, they would arrive in half a month. However, they did not understand why this person wanted to buy other livestock. Everyone thought so. Boss Yen also asked, what is the use of the oxen and mule that Boss Chen wants? Oxen are to be killed, used to plow the land. Donkeys and mules are naturally used to transport beans. Horses cannot only eat grass. Is there a problem? Boss Chun picked up the teacup and started to drink tea. He began to wait for the other party's reply. Without waiting for Yen Dongjia to speak, one of the people nearby couldn't help but ask, this old Master Chen, if I have the livestock you want, would I also buy it at 30% more than the market price? You? Haha, how many do you have? You can't expect me to follow you everywhere. I don't have much time. Boss Yen, please excuse me. Boss Chun, don't think that I didn't find many, but there are many people here. If each person found 10, there would be a few thousand of them. Furthermore, how can 10 of them be taken out? However, let me say this first. Now that the price of grain has increased and the Zhang family in Yi province has taken away a lot of mules, the market price will be expensive. Moreover, it seems that there are people selling them recently. If the time comes, if it is expensive, you can also buy it at 30% more than the market price. You can first write a letter and leave it with the broker as a mortgage. If he doesn't accept it, then you won't have to pay for it. Is that okay? Boss Chun did not wait for this person to finish his sentence and very magnanimously decided. After he said this, the people around stopped buying horses. Those who sold horses also stopped selling. Since they were going to buy the horses for Boss Chen, it was more important to quickly find other livestock to earn money. Boss Chen seemed to be very happy. He drank a cup of tea and did not mind the unpleasant smell here. He brought his subordinates and walked around. Go and tell my father that we have a rich family. I am not afraid that he won't be able to afford the blood jade pendant carved with a qilin. Yan Dongjia instructed the person next to him as he followed behind them. When it was noon, Boss Chen bought all the horses for sale here and told them that he would come back to buy them in 2 days. After he left with his subordinates, and the people sent by the horse trading company to drive the horses, the head of the 4 biggest horse trading companies in Tunghua County gathered all the managers of the other horse trading companies. When the other horse trading companies arrived at the agreed place, they suddenly found that the boss of the East Horse Trading Company was also there. They all went up to greet him. It was not easy to see this old man. Boss Yen, who rarely showed his face in public, smiled and agreed with everyone. When everyone had arrived, he coughed and was about to speak. The others consciously stopped talking with others and looked at Boss Yen, waiting for him to speak. Ladies and gentlemen, this old man has gathered all of you here today because of what Boss Chen said. Some of you may know where my horse came from, while some of you may not. But regardless of whether you know or not, I have to say it. This is an opportunity. Even if that Boss Chen doesn't want it in the end, the things he left behind as collateral will be enough for us to make a fortune. The horses of the East Horse Trading Company were indeed secretly transported from elsewhere. Not only the East Horse Trading Company, but the horses of the other 3 major horse trading companies were all like this. It was not easy for the horses to come over, but they came over. However, there is a rule there, which is to first send the money over and then look at the horses. As the saying goes, if there is money, everyone gets it. If such a big business is monopolized by the 4 horse trading companies, I think everyone will feel bad. The 4 horse trading companies will probably be finished. I will stop here. If anyone is willing to use money to buy horses from elsewhere and then sell them, hand over the money first. What kind of horse do you want to buy, and how much? You can ask my son. When I am old, my body will not be able to take a few words. Everyone, please eat first. This old man will take his leave. After Boss Yen finished speaking, it was as if his body really could not take it anymore. He was supported and left. Everyone did not care if he was really like that. After all, the path was pointed out. As for whether they left or not, it was not up to them to care. Some people immediately wanted to go home to get the money. Some people were afraid that Boss Chen was a swindler. What if he did not pawn enough to buy too many horses? What should they do then? Some people felt that they should borrow some money. The 4 major horse trading companies were very rich. If they did not have enough money, they would not be able to earn much. Who knew when such an opportunity would appear again? Each of them had different thoughts, so they drank absent-mindedly. After a quick meal, they dispersed. The owners of the other 3 horse shops stayed behind to discuss with their masters how many horses they wanted to buy this time. While the Tang people were worried about the horses, the Tubo people were also worried about the horses. In the end, Luftfutuda didn't want to retreat. After thinking hard for a day, he came up with a good idea. That was to let the Tang army eat up a logistics team. This team wasn't from the main force anyway, so it didn't matter if they died a little. He wanted to form a cavalry team with at least 10,000 horses. He estimated that he would pull away from Mumukushu and wait for the logistics team to be eaten up. Then, these 10,000 horses would be able to move out. The nearest wind was always from the north. He was also going north. At that time, the cavalry would have the advantage of the wind direction. He did not believe that the little girl would be able to guess his plan. However, he did not have horses. He went to Mumukushu and asked. They could only send out 2,000 horses. Originally, they had 5,000. They needed to leave 1,000 to guard the camp. The other 2,000, needless to say, were all under the Tang army. If he did not protect the camp, he could still gather 5,000. If he had 8,000 against 9,000, it would not be reliable. Mumukushu was still thinking about how to gather the cavalry when Wang Wan led the 9,000 light cavalry to the back of the two tribes. However, they did not attack the Tubo logistics team. Instead, they went straight south and cut down trees to pave a road by the Ruoxue River. The cavalry in the logistics team panicked and immediately returned to report this news to the Tubo headquarters. At this time, the Tubo people realized that Cuckoo, this 9-year-old girl, was very difficult to deal with. They had no choice but to organize people to stop them. This was to prevent them from crossing the mountains and entering the Tubo territory. 3 days later, the official army of Pengzhou was also mobilized. When the 2,000-strong Mo Dao unit appeared, the Tubo people became nervous. The cavalry did not dare to charge recklessly. The scouts ran around. Then the Pengzhou cavalry appeared. The 20,000 cavalry roared and headed straight for the Ruoxue River. The Tubo army had already set up their formation on the other side of the Ruoxue River. They wanted to stop the Tang army at the Ruoxue River. If the three tribes were still there and were not lured away, the Tubo people would not be so anxious. After setting up the formation, Zhang Zhong let Li Sun, Old Man Pai, and Old Man Yao lead the troops. Together with the people gathered from the local area, they arrived at Pengzhou together. In Pengzhou, they used the imperial edict to get the military rights of the newly recruited soldiers. A total of 40,000 people were mobilized. They carried their weapons and rushed out of Kagwan. Another 10,000 people secretly left behind. They took a detour and headed towards the villages with underground tunnels. At this time, there were countless eagles flying in the sky. The eagle trainers, who had just arrived at Sanshui County, did not even rest before joining the troops. When Zhang Zhong led the people out, they immediately spread out and started to harvest the Tubo autumn grain. When Wang Wan led the troops to harass the Tubo army and slowly arrived at the desert, Zhang Zhong had already harvested all the grain and retreated back to Pengzhou. When the people of Pengzhou saw the carriages of grain being transported back, they opened their eyes wide and were speechless. Although it was still a little bit away from the best time to ripen, it was already not bad. They all thought that since the Zhang family's child was very daring, Zhang Zhong, the provincial governor, was also not small. He actually went to harvest the grain under the enemy's nose. Very impressive. Old Man Pai and the other two were also very surprised. When Zhang Zhong wanted to borrow the troops, they thought that Zhang Zhong was worried about the child at home and wanted to go and help. They even tried to persuade him. In the end, they did not manage to persuade him. Li Sun acted as if he wanted to see the world burn and followed him to harvest the grain. Not to mention that they did not expect this at the beginning. Even Zhang Zhong was the same. He rode on his horse for 2 days before he stopped wasting time. It was mainly because of the opportunity created by his son and daughter-in-law. He did not know how the two children were able to calculate this when they were being chased over there. They actually led the cavalry in a large circle and acted as if they were going to turn around and shake off the two Tubo troops. It gave people the feeling that they were going to cooperate with the Tang army to attack the Tubo cavalry. It meant that they were going to forcefully cross the mountain, and the Tubo army could only send troops over. Wang Wan used her mobility to turn around and then went back to restrain the other two troops. As for the Tubo army, they had already harvested all the grain. The Mo soldiers and cavalry all went back and waited there. It was unknown if they were looking for another opportunity to attack. How are they still children? They are clearly famous generals. Their deployment of troops is superb. If I had known, I would have followed them to take a look. Old Man Chong rubbed his hands excitedly and said to Old Man Pai and Old Man Yao. Old Man Pai was also in a daze. He, who had seen all kinds of storms in his life, had to admit that Wang Wan had shocked him too much. It seemed that there were not many people in the world who could use tactics to such an extent. Not to mention tactics, she could even cooperate with Pengzhou to achieve strategic results. Old Man Yao blinked twice and said, "What did the emperor say in the message?" He said that he wanted to see Cuckoo's ability and whether or not she could adjust her tactics at any time after making a move here. He said that the situation is not constant and that a famous general must have this kind of ability. It seems that the emperor doesn't need to worry. Cuckoo is not an ordinary famous general. Any general who can cooperate with her will feel very comfortable. They will act according to the situation without the slightest intention of being forced. Furthermore, they made an additional arrangement and harvested the grain at the Ruoshui River in Tubo. That's right. It seems that we have to follow the Zhang family's wishes and hide Cuckoo among the ordinary people. Such a general will not be casually deployed in the future. When there is no general available, when will we send Cuckoo out and decide the situation with one battle? This sword is really too sharp, so people are reluctant to use it. Old Man Pai looked to the west and said. The people in charge of the joint harvest in Ijo also returned to the stronghold excitedly and talked about what happened there. Because of the existence of Zhang Zhong, they knew more than ordinary people. They told the story of the provincial governor's daughter-in-law with exaggerated details. The chiefs of each stronghold breathed a sigh of relief and immediately ordered people to send the good things in the stronghold to Zhang Zhong's brother. At this time, they really regarded Zhang Zhong as a brother. Not only did Zhang Zhong call them brothers, but also Zhang Zhong's peaceful attitude towards them. In the past, they thought that Zhang Zhong was afraid that they would be difficult to manage. So he did this. Now it seemed that this was not the case at all. Zhang Zhong's daughter-in-law could lead the Tang army to victory. Would she be afraid of the 4,000 people like the other officials who came here before? According to the people who understood military affairs, a person who could use the army like this was definitely an existence like the god of war. In other words, if Zhang Zhong wanted to, he could turn his face and all the strongholds in Ijo would be finished. A good person, a good brother, a good official. The people in the strongholds finally acknowledged Zhang Zhong's identity as an official and acknowledged the Tang Empire's absolute rule. The Tubo people also knew about the situation, but they could not think of a good solution. What they regretted the most was that they arranged for the spies to destroy the embankment at Wangjiang. If not, Cuckoo and her family were still in Shuzhou. How could Li Longji send them to manage the logistics? If they did not manage the logistics, Cuckoo would not have come out of seclusion to take over when Guitu was beaten to the point where he could not fight back. If she did not take over, how could they lose so many soldiers? How could they be like now, being led around by others? A famous general of a generation might be silent forever and not be discovered. They would not have to be so embarrassed to be pointed at by others and asked if they still dared to do so. Lufutuda and Mumu Hushu were also questioned. They were asked how they let the Tang army escape. Lufutuda couldn't say anything when he was being questioned. He had only eaten one meal today and was still hungry. When Wang Wan's troops returned, they didn't forget to attack another group of troops that were transporting the provisions. How is this still Tubo territory? This is her backyard. If she wants to fight, she can play, and if she wants to leave, she can come and go like the wind. I finally King understand what the great Tang's art of war is about. Wind, forest, fire, and mountain. What a good wind, forest, fire, and mountain. She's used it so mysteriously. Lufutuda slapped his thigh and said with a face full of grief and anger. The messenger beside him carefully controlled his breathing so that the general wouldn't vent his anger on him. The messenger didn't say anything, but Lufutuda still wanted to find him and asked, "Tell me, am I useless? Didn't they also get their grain taken away? Weren't they also hiding at the Ruoshui River and defending? They were afraid that the Tang army's Mo Saber would not allow them to mobilize their troops. Am I not afraid of the light cavalry of the Tang army? Am I able to command the troops like my own arms? If they weren't worried about the demon fiend, why would they send troops to defend? If they weren't on guard, why wouldn't they send troops to attack the harvesting troops led by Zhang Zhong in Ijo? Tell me, do you blame me? Say it." No, it's because the demon fiend is too powerful. All is fair in war. Who knows what she will do with her men? The messenger was scared out of his wits. He was afraid that the general would kill him if he was unhappy. Yes, it's because she's too powerful. Whoever killed the people of Wangjiang and came up with the idea should take responsibility. She shouldn't have looked for me. I'm not that capable. But now I know how she knows about our army's formation. Eagle, it's the eagle flying in the sky. I want to shoot it down too, right? Luftwaffe current state was very unstable. His words were also very jumpy. Yes, I heard that after the Tang army moved out, they moved back and forth. There were countless eagles in the sky. No matter what the Tubo army did, the other party would be able to react accordingly. It's that eagle that helped. There have been eagles flying in the sky for a few days now. It's that eagle that told the Tang army our formation. The messenger carefully moved towards the entrance of the tent and said softly. Luftwaffe didn't have the intention to kill the messenger. Instead, he slapped his thigh and said, "Yes, it's the eagle. It's the eagle that gave the message." Then tell me, if we need light cavalry to deal with the light cavalry, what do we need to deal with the eagle? Use bows and arrows. The messenger replied. No, right, we also need to use the eagle. It flies so high, can you shoot it? Send someone back and ask if there are any eagle trainers in Tubo. Don't use normal hunting eagles. It's useless. Those that fly in the sky are definitely not normal eagles. How much money does Izhou Provincial Governor Zhang Zhong have? He can send a normal eagle to his daughter-in-law. Find me an eagle. Once I have an eagle, I won't be afraid of her anymore. At least I won't be ambushed by her. Don't you think so? Luftwaffe denied the messenger's thoughts and said his own judgment. Yes, it's an eagle against an eagle. Then I'll go out now to pass the order. The messenger found an opportunity to leave. Go. Chapter 640. The autumn harvest had finally arrived. Those who had land at home prepared their tools. Those who had enough manpower would do the work themselves, and those who didn't would ask others for help. The price of grain rose again and again. With a receipt from the Zhang family's winery, the price of a bushel of wheat rose to 35 copper coins, and the price of rice also rose to 50 copper coins. This made the other people who were collecting grain miserable. Either the Zhang family collected all of the grain, or they raised the price at a later date. Now the Zhang family had approached everyone who had land, but the Zhang family didn't have the money and insisted on waiting until a month after the autumn harvest. As a result, they couldn't lower the price of the grain they collected. Those who had grain, even if they hadn't been approached by the Zhang family, learned their lesson. They didn't sell and waited for the price to rise. Even if their families were in urgent need of money, they wouldn't budge. Even though the cost of purchasing grain had increased by half, there was still no market. The most infuriating thing was that the grain that Zhang Zhong had plundered was put in Chongping warehouse in Izhou. He only paid the workers who helped to harvest, but didn't give them any grain. The wages were very low, only 10 copper coins per person per day. Even so, those idiots who followed him to harvest felt that they had taken advantage of him, saying that it was an army operation. What made it even more helpless was that the officials of the neighboring prefectures didn't say anything. They didn't even try to help Chongping in Wing Prefecture. Wasn't it just him being the Jiannan prefect and the Jiannan inspector? Wasn't it just him dealing with a bunch of officials? Now that he was no longer one of them, was there a need for them to be so afraid of him? As the price of grain increased, so did the price of livestock. This was especially true in autumn, when there was less grass to feed. A horse that used to cost 5 strings of coins couldn't even be bought with 8 strings of coins now. The only thing that didn't change much was the price of salt. Zhang Zhong had specially consulted with the officials of the neighboring prefectures, and no one knew what he said to them. The price of salt stabilized, and so did the price of oil, which only rose by a little less than 10%. At this moment, the entire Jiannan prefecture was like a small wooden house before a storm, giving the intelligent people a feeling that they were floating. The merchants who were collecting grain had no choice but to look for Master Qi, who was working with them. "Boss Qi, we can't get enough grain. The price is getting higher and higher." The commoners are reluctant to sell. A grain merchant said to Boss Chi, "If the price is high, then buy it at a high price. Wheat is 35 copper coins a bushel. Rice is 50 copper coins a bushel. Buy as much as you can." Boss Chi gave the same price as Zhang Zhong. All the merchants shook their heads. Another merchant opened his mouth and said, "Boss Chi, we can't accept the same price. The commoners are willing to keep it for Zhang Zhong. They all say that the Zhang family's children are fighting at the front lines. We can't disappoint the heroes." Then raise the price. 40 copper coins for wheat and 55 copper coins for rice. I'll write a letter and discuss with someone. We'll charge you according to this price first. More money will be delivered soon. Chi Dongjia's heart was filled with both joy and worry. He was happy because the price of grain was too high, but he was worried because the time limit for the goods he had conned was approaching. Originally, he thought that this sum of money would be enough to buy more grain and livestock, as well as increase the price of goods in Jiannan. But now that the price had increased, the amount of goods that needed to be bought had not reached the required amount. The plan drawn up by the higher-ups made him feel that something was wrong. Just where did it go wrong? Chi Dongjia couldn't figure it out, so he could only write a letter and have someone secretly send it away. Zhang Zhong could also feel the current situation in Jiannan, but he wasn't in a hurry. He had already made the necessary arrangements and was only waiting for the final blow. During this process, a portion of the commoners would suffer losses. But that didn't matter. He would be able to compensate them before the end. As for the merchants who had suffered even greater losses, he didn't care. Each and every one of these merchants were smart. How could they not understand how much damage their actions would cause? Since they were willing to go against their conscience and add fuel to the fire, they had to be prepared to bear the consequences. If the merchants at the border were not dealt with properly, they might be in danger in the future. Zhang Zhong, who was waiting for the situation to develop, began to work hard to perfect the ski resort. Old Man Pai and the other two also followed behind Zhang Zhong to help. They were faintly anticipating what the Zhang family hadn't told them yet. It wasn't only Zhang Zhong and the others who were busy. Xiao Bei and the others were also very busy. The original 3-story house was too short, and the children grew quickly. They put away the house made of agarwood and put it into the large warehouse. Then they made a 3-story house made of ginkgo wood for them. This time, the height of each story was 5 feet. If it was a little higher, it would be the same height as the door. Not long after it was finished, the glass was installed, and a new batch of toys were changed. There was also a carpet and other protective measures inside, but there was no bedding. Xiao Bei and the others, under the guidance of the big brother's young man, found straw to fill the house. They also asked the servants to dig a tunnel under the house. The tunnel under the house could be pulled open. The tunnel could be pulled open now, and the tunnel could be pulled open before. It could be used to escape at a critical moment. Most of the straw in the house was secretly sent into the tunnel by Xiao Bei and the others. Chang, whose son and daughter were also busy. Unfortunately, the two of them spoke late. Until now, they could only say 1 or 2 simple words, and their expressions were still unclear. Even so, Chang, who was very happy, he spoke earlier than his 2 older children. The oldest one could only speak when he was 2.5 years old. Of course, compared to the children of the Zhang family and Wang family, they couldn't be compared. In his opinion, this was because the parents were powerful, and the children were also powerful. Only those who knew the truth would understand that this was the difference between nutrition and infant education. Xiao Bei and the rest were already able to express their thoughts to others very well. They could understand simple stories and could even ask questions when others were telling stories. The servant girl in charge of taking care of them clearly knew that they had stuffed all the straw into the tunnel below. At night, when they weren't paying attention, she took the opportunity to spread the straw properly. However, she still pretended not to see. It took Xiao Bei and the rest 2 days to finally pave all the tunnels with straw. On this day, Xiao Bei happily pulled the maidservant to stand outside the house while they entered the house and closed the curtains from the inside. They jogged to the bottom and squeezed out. They circled the outside and stood behind the maidservant. They nudged the maidservant and widened their eyes to wait for the maidservant's reaction. The servant girl was still looking at the house attentively. After her clothes were pulled, she turned her head and was shocked. "Ah, Xiao Bei, why are you outside?" Xiao Bei and the others laughed proudly. They shook their little heads and refused to say anything. Chang, whose 2 children, wanted to say something, but they couldn't. They could only worry. "Xiao Bei, tell me quickly. What's going on? You're so powerful." The servant girl continued to ask curiously. T-tunnel warfare. Ambush. Millions of divine soldiers. Do you still dare to fight bad guys with Big Brother and Big Sister? Xiao Bei waved his little fist and said, "We don't dare. We don't dare anymore. Xiao Bei is so powerful." The servant girl pretended to be scared. Ha ha ha. Xiao Bei laughed happily again. As he laughed, he suddenly pouted and said, "Why aren't they back yet?" The servant girl's expression also darkened. She comforted him and said, "Soon, soon. When little young master and little miss come back, they will bring delicious food for Xiao Bei. No, beat the bad guys and come back alive." Xiao Bei seemed to know that there was danger over there. He only had one request. Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao still didn't know that their younger brothers and sisters at home were thinking about them. They had already entered the desert and stayed there for a day. The 2 Tibetan soldiers who followed them didn't enter. They kept a certain distance to ensure the depth of the defense line. On the one hand, they waited for supplies from behind. On the other hand, they wanted to see when exactly Wang Wan would come out. Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao weren't in a hurry at all. The desert here wasn't as unbearable as other places. There were grasslands, lakes, and many oases. It would be strange if the 2 of them died of thirst or hunger in this desert. "Xiaobao, I used to come here when I was traveling. They sold pearls. These are lake pearls. Find more and bring them back for Xiao Bei and the others to play with. They can also be used as cosmetics. Ah, this is desert cistanche, also known as desert cistanche. Quick, pick them. There are so many of them. Take them back and cook them. They don't dare to chase after us." Wang Wan, who treated entering the desert as a tourist trip, found something good. Desert cistanche, a real wild desert cistanche. She picked them while calling Zhang Xiaobao, who was still looking at them on the way here. "I'm not looking at them. I'm thinking that the desert here is good. If one day we can build a railway here, we can make use of the resources here. When can we completely annex Tibet?" Zhang Xiaobao looked at the yellow sand in front of him and felt very comfortable. He came over to pick the desert cistanche and said. Wang Wan looked at the resting soldiers and said, "If I want to fight, I can fight. Economic war, unconventional war. Give me another 100,000 Tang soldiers, and I will be able to take over the entire Tubo in 2 years. Your economic war is good, but you don't gain much from it. You cheated our own merchants and the Tubo people, but the loss of Tubo people is not too big. I have to help you. Whether it is political or economic means, in the end, they need military force to maintain. The Jews are so powerful and have good means of making money, but they also spend money to hunt down the specific people who kill them. They can't destroy other people's country, and military force is not enough. The oil country wants to fight an economic war with other developed countries, but in the end, it can only be replaced by other countries' troops. I will help you to improve the plan and let Tibet suffer more losses. That's fine too. My plan this time can only swallow the money sent by the Tubo Empire. If you can lead troops to help, I can hurt the Tubo Empire. War is always the most direct method to solve conflicts." Zhang Xiaobao didn't refuse. After all, he couldn't lead troops to fight. Wang Wan picked all the desert cistanche in front of her and spread it on the sand to dry. She also lay on the sand, narrowed her eyes, touched her face, and said, "After days of fighting, my skin is not good. I have to go back early to take care of it. What else? I can't come here for nothing. There are all kinds of medicinal herbs. You can't be a temporary truce and let the soldiers help you pick the herbs, right? Zhang Xiaobao flipped the sand around him and found no insects or shell things. He gave up the idea of looking for earth snails to make soup. I need to take a few days to train the troops. I have been fighting while running, so I don't have time. The next battle will be the real test. Get up, let's move forward. Chapter 641. Lufutuda stood at the edge of the desert and was protected by many bodyguards. Among them, there was a shield that was as big as a wall. He was really afraid that arrows would suddenly fly out from under a pile of sand. He now had a deep understanding that anything was possible for this little girl who was like a killing god. As long as it was something that he could think of, it wasn't surprising that she could do it. General, the wind is strong outside. It's better to enter the tent to avoid hurting your face. The soldier beside him reminded him. Hurting my face? Then go in. I'm not afraid. My face is long gone. What's there to be hurt about? I've already thrown away the Tubo's face. If I really want to lose face, I'll lead the troops and charge in. My ears are still ringing with the words she asked before entering the desert. Are you afraid? Are you afraid? Lufutuda was filled with anger. Plus, the environment here made him feel uncomfortable. He vented his anger to the soldier beside him. I'm not afraid. The soldier gritted his teeth and said, Then you lead the troops and charge. I'm scared. I can't tell if she's asking this to scare me so that I won't chase after her or to provoke me so that she can teach me a lesson. Lufutuda glared at the soldier. The soldier was trapped here. His face was red as he said, I'm willing to go in alone so as not to implicate the other brothers. You're still saying you're not afraid? If you're not afraid, why are you worried about implicating others? If it was you, Wang Wan would dare to lead the troops in. Why do you want to go in alone? Are you going to surrender? Is there any news? Is the eagle ready? Lufutuda really wanted to gather his courage and wave his hand. 20,000 people would enter in formation. However, he didn't dare to do so. It was already like this outside. He didn't know where the attack would come from if he went in. Didn't he see the eagle flying around? This beast wasn't stupid. It was said that it cooperated with people to attack the Tubo scouts. One eagle could take care of two people. One would grab one in its claws and one in its beak. Why didn't it dive now? Seeing that the general didn't continue to force him, the soldier didn't dare to say anything else. He replied, General, I estimate that there will be news in at most half a day. With the help of the eagle, there should be a few eagle trainers in the Tubo. That's good. Let's go back. Lufutuda was very happy when he thought about the future of the eagle. He turned around and was about to leave. At this time, 6 fast horses also rushed over from the back of the camp. The people on the horses were clearly in a hurry. Each person was riding 2 horses. One was wearing the uniform of the Tibetan army, while the other 2 were wearing normal clothes. They sat on the horses dejectedly and sadly, not knowing what was wrong with them. Reporting, General, the eagle breeder has been found and brought here. The Tibetan soldier in front of him dismounted and reported, Oh, here he comes? But the 2 of them? Quick, call them closer. Lufutuda was very excited and greeted them. Suddenly, he looked around suspiciously and looked up at the sky. He asked the messenger, Where's the eagle? You wouldn't want me to catch them and raise them, would you? The 2 men lowered their heads. The messenger glanced at them and replied helplessly, General, when we came here, the 2 of them said that they were going to use the eagle to scout the road. They were afraid that they would be discovered by the enemy. The 2 of them flew in the sky for less than half an hour when a group of eagles flew from the east. In the end, the 2 of them died miserably. Luckily, they didn't discover us and escaped. Bulsh *T. Do you think that the eagle eyes are blind? It was you who walked underground. This is clearly a show for me to see. I let you come back to report. You can't win, but you can't win either. Go and find as many eagles as the Tang army has. I don't believe that you can't win." A very tragic scene appeared in Lufututa's mind. The two eagles were grabbed by a group of eagles, and their feathers were all gone. How tragic. "General, the same number of eagles is useless." At that time, the other party had a group of eagles, but only one eagle flew out. After 5 rounds, one of our eagles was caught and the other had its head bitten off. 2 against 1, we couldn't win. The messenger continued. He suddenly thought of something and took out something. "General, the other party's eagle was also injured. Look, the thing wrapped around its claws was torn. There are traces of blood on it." Lufututa took it and saw that it was a piece of cloth. The 2 sides of the cloth were dyed red. There was a picture in the middle. It was a cute seedling with eyes. One of its arms was pointed forward while the other was flat. There was an eagle on the flat arm. He recognized it. He wasn't the only one who recognized it. The surrounding generals also recognized it. This was the symbol of the Zhangwang family in Sanshui County. The flag of Devil Cuckoo also had a seedling like this. However, the seedling was pulling a cart filled with provisions. It represented the logistics camp in Ijo. Seeing this picture, Lufututa suddenly felt relieved. The surrounding people who could see the picture also didn't feel as sad as before. If it was an eagle sent by the Zhangwang family in Sanshui County, it would be understandable if it fought against 2. It would be strange if it couldn't win. Even a girl from their family could fight against many with fewer people, let alone an eagle. Your 2 eagles didn't die in vain. They didn't even need to use any tricks on you. Lufututa started to comfort the 2 men who lost their eagles. The surrounding people nodded in agreement. The 2 men who raised the eagles thought that they would be punished. They didn't expect to be comforted. They looked at each other. One of them said, "General, we can't accept this. Why is the San Shuizhang family's eagle better than ours? We'll go back immediately and find other eagle trainers to take revenge." "Don't just go and find them. When you come over, avoid them. Don't fly. If you can't accept it, do you think I can? Even if you can't accept it, you have to bear with it. Come over here and take care of this eagle. I'll count it as a great achievement. If you want to take care of the eagles above, you have to find at least 5. No, 10 of them. And they have to be careful. You have to work together and take care of each other. Rest for a while before you leave." Lufututa warned them. He was afraid that the 2 men would act rashly. If that happened, they had already fallen into the enemy's hands. The 2 of them still wanted to say something, but they were dragged away by the messenger. As they walked away, the messenger said, "Listen to the general's words. Bring at least 10 of them and come over quietly. It's best to train them over there first and work together in battle. Don't be greedy and act rashly. Don't you see that the general has close to 40,000 people here in formation?" The 2 eagle trainers were scared by this. They nodded and followed the soldier to rest. After walking for a while, they reacted. Was there a need for this? 40,000 men were scared to this extent? The Grand Pass was long and winding. Carriages were about to overturn when they were on the road. Horses were about to fall into the stream when they stepped on it. Mi Fan and the other 2 men who came from the capital finally experienced the danger of Shudao. They rode their horses. In the beginning, they carefully stuck to the side of the mountain. Now, they dismounted from their horses and walked slowly. Mi Fan and Han Xianfeng glanced at the stream below them from time to time. They shivered and held the rock wall beside them. Jiu Meiling was brave. She walked in the middle and felt the wind blowing from the stream. She also felt the unique humidity of Taodao's water. "Come over here. Don't fall down." Han Xianfeng had shouted more than once. Every time, Jiu Meiling would smile and tell them that she was not afraid. She said that she was 5 feet tall. Every step was about 2 feet and 6 inches. She was 4 feet and 7 inches away from the side. Even if she missed a step, she would not fall down. She asked the 2 men to continue riding. She said that since the horse was used to this path, it would know how to control itself. The two men did not dare to do anything. Fortunately, Mi Fan did not feel uncomfortable. She knew that Jiu Meilong would not be in danger for the time being. Jiu Meilong walked and said to the two men discontentedly, "Are you still men? If you keep moving, it will be too late by the time you reach the place." "No, Mi Fan is here. If it's really late, he'll feel uncomfortable. It has nothing to do with whether he's a man or not. I'm just afraid of heights. It's not the critical moment yet. If I accidentally hurt myself, the Zhang family will be angry. The Zhang family values people with ability very much, but they also take care of people without ability." Han Xianfeng would not go over. He wanted to dig his hand into the stone. "You still have the ability? You are rowing to death. You are waiting for me to save you. Without me, you will beg for help from heaven and earth. I beg you now. Stop talking. If you say something ungrateful again, I will jump down." Han Xianfeng was tortured. "Are you good at swimming? If you're lucky, you can give it a try. At the very least, when you jump out, you have to land about 6 feet away. Otherwise, you won't be able to fall into the water and will crash to your death. Let me calculate for you. From here to the surface of the water, it's about get on the horse and go. We are in a hurry. Mi Fan, please. If you feel uncomfortable, tell me." Han Xianfeng gathered his courage and got on the horse. Mi Fan was helpless. She also climbed on the horse. She took a deep breath and said, "Let's do it. We will reach the place tomorrow." Zhang Zhong in Ezhou had just arranged the general affairs of the ski resort and handed it over to the people in the inner yard. He began to lead the people who had nothing to do to build the road. The imperial edict was not fake. If it was built, it had to be built. It was not paid. Fortunately, it gave a policy. If it was used well, it would make a lot of money. Zhang Zhong was not worried about this. He believed in his son's ability. With the policy given, it would be easy to earn a few times the amount of money needed to build the road. The road was made of sand and stones. The key places were reinforced with cement to prevent the road from being damaged. There were also a few eagles to help. When there was a need for a suspension bridge, the eagles would send one end of the rope over. Then, there would be people pulling on the rope. The rope gradually thickened and was much faster than before. When there were stones in the middle of the road, or stones that could easily slide, they would use explosives to blow them up. The explosives were placed on the side as if there was no danger. There was also no one guarding nearby. It gave people the feeling that they could take it at any time. Zhang Zhong also hoped that someone would take it. However, he was disappointed. Even if people knew how powerful this thing was, no one touched it, let alone steal it for research. The ambushers were always there, and so was the cement that had not been mixed. The working people did not care about the conspiracy or political purpose of the road building. They could do the work. After the construction period, they could get money. Moreover, it would be convenient for them to go back and forth in the future. They worked very hard. The food was not bad. Zhang Zhong was also in charge of providing worn-out clothes and tools. The people felt that this kind of life was not bad. However, they did not know that under the calm surface, there were enemies and allies on another level. Chapter 642. Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao were still traveling in the desert. More than 9,000 soldiers were seriously injured. Those who couldn't hold on had died, while those who were lightly injured had mostly been treated. Although it was said to be treated, it was actually just the pills given by the logisticians and the salt they stole to kill the poison. In a situation where no one was chasing after them, their physical and mental strength recovered quite well. Wang Wan began to train them. It was also a kind of run-in. Wang Wan needed to let the soldiers get used to her combat style and thinking. In special situations where they couldn't communicate with each other, they would be able to guess her direction of action. Of course, Wang Wan didn't actually have a style. She learned a lot. If one had to talk about a style, it would be a style that could be changed at any time. Now that she had fewer people and the enemy had more people, Wang Wan tried to fix a style as much as possible. Zhang Xiaobao wasn't idle either. On one hand, he was receiving news from Pengzhou. On the other hand, he had to send out information to command the economic war there. Under the calm surface, there were surging undercurrents. They were fighting a war that didn't see blood but could still kill people. The arrangements were more or less done. Next, they would have to adapt to the situation. Also, they had to consider the matter of using military force that Wang Wan had mentioned. While the two of them were leisurely leading the army, calculating how much food they could eat and how much more supplies they could get from the desert, Shui Yun brought back another piece of news. Xiao Bao, the imperial court has sent us a letter. They want to give us two policies. Take a look and see how we should arrange these two policies. One is free, and the other is limited. When Wang Wan received the letter from Zhang Ying, she waved at Zhang Xiaobao, who was already walking towards them. Zhang Xiaobao was a little absent-minded. He was calculating the ratio of his family's financial resources to their gains. He had to calculate the rough numbers to prevent his family from losing money after defeating Tubo. If that happened, the economic war wouldn't be fun anymore. If he lost 800 of his own men while losing 1,000 of his own men, it would weaken his reputation. When he read the letter, there were indeed some policies written on it. One of them was that the Zhang family could make their own suggestions within an appropriate range. The other one was that the Zhang family would be allowed to invest a lot of money in Jiannan Road, and they would be given 3 years of tax exemption. However, 50% of that had to be invested in infrastructure, and 20% of the other 50% was not allowed to make money. For a medical center that had a balance of income and expenditure, only 30% could be purely commercial. Xiaobao, isn't it too little? You should ask for 50%. Purely for commercial benefits? Wang Wan felt that they had spent too much. Infrastructure was not like their time, where they could collect tolls and bridge tolls. They only spent money and did not earn money. Zhang Xiaobao looked at it for a few seconds and said, I'm afraid that the imperial court will go back on their word. If they don't want to compensate us, they don't need to give the other 30% tax exemption for commercial shops. Just the road repair alone is enough. I'm wondering if I should do that. Who said that road repair is not profitable? Building roads can make money because the government is paying for it. We are just investing our own money. Li Longji won't give us money. He is so stingy that he won't even give us a goldfish bag or clothes. If we expect him to take money from the Ministry of Revenue, I would rather believe that Tubo suddenly became kind and willing to compensate for our losses. Wang Wan really couldn't understand how they could make money by paying for their own roads. Let's not talk about this first. Let's think about what kind of policies we want first. This policy should be a few people from the imperial court testing us. Will you think if it wasn't us, but other businessmen who wanted to consider for the sake of their family and not us, what would they choose? Zhang Xiaobao hadn't considered whether they should use road repair to make money. If other people found out that the Zhang family could operate in this way, what if they stopped it? Let's skip the first policy. Wang Wan thought for a while and said, there are two choices. The first is a very stupid choice. I reckon that the imperial court will agree for the time being. That is to let your father become a higher official in Jiannan Circuit, which will coincide with the policies given by the imperial court. The second is to deliberately show weakness. For example, when we were in Sanshui County, we directly transferred your father to the capital and asked for a better official position. Neither of these two choices are suitable for our current situation. Tell me, what kind of policies do you want? I want to change this policy into two policies. Zhang Xiaobao tapped the letter a few times with his hand and thought of a solution. 2. Does that mean that the two policies will become more policies? When I was young, I thought about it when I read that the monsters in fairy tales could help you fulfill 3 wishes. The first wish was for me to have many, many wishes. Li Longji isn't a fool. If you really do that, he'll easily come over and beat you up. Wang Wan covered her mouth and laughed for a while before telling Zhang Xiaobao. It was clearly the naive thoughts of a child. If Zhang Xiaobao set to write a letter and send it to the capital, how would the people in the capital react when they read the letter? It would definitely be very interesting. When Zhang Xiaobao heard Wang Wan's words, he also laughed. That's not what I mean. Ha ha ha. I just don't want the people in the imperial court to guess my family's intentions. The first policy I want is to give a large piece of land in the northeast or here. It'll be exempted from 5 years of taxes. Any kind of land is fine. The second policy is still land, this desert. It'll be exempted from taxes for 10 years. The imperial court can choose the first policy, but the second policy is confirmed. I believe they'll definitely be willing to give it. You want the land here? This is the land of Tubo. If it were me, I would also give it. I heard that at the very beginning, when the soldiers on that island retired, they gave them a place to live. They directly chose a certain place in Beijing. In the end, they naturally couldn't come over to take it. What do you want this place for? You even made a request. When Wang Wan heard Zhang Xiaobao's first request, she was only a little confused. What was Zhang Xiaobao's backup plan? But when she heard the second request, she was completely confused. According to this situation, could they still ask for the land in America? The great Tang couldn't do anything about it. Zhang Xiaobao gave a mysterious smile. Humph, you don't understand? I want this land because I want the imperial court to choose from the northeast. When we send the people we've trained in the snow mountains to the northeast, the imperial court will once again go back on their word. They definitely won't allow themselves to be schemed against. This way, when this matter is over, we'll have a lot of horses. The imperial court will definitely find an excuse to arrange for us to go to Mongolia. They'll also give us more preferential treatment. This is how benefits are exchanged. Unless they want to shed all pretense of cordiality, they'll be too much of a bully. After going around in a big circle, we're still going back to our original goal. Is there a need for this? Wang Wan understood. Zhang Xiaobao had been calculating and had brought out his original idea. It seemed like he had done an extra job, but the result was the same. There's a need. There's definitely a need. That place isn't the most important. The most important thing is this desert. I won't tell you now. You'll know in the future. Come, write the letter. Just do as I say. Zhang Xiaobao didn't say anything more. He indicated for Wang Wan to write the letter. Wang Wan turned her head away. I still have to train. You do what you need to do. Shui Yun acted as the messenger and flew to Pengzhou again. This time, she brought a 3-page letter to Zhang Zhong. In the letter, she tried to use short sentences to express the meaning clearly. After receiving the letter, Zhang Zhong asked someone to look after the cement and explosives. He hid in a corner and watched. He even carried the 3 old men behind his back. This made the 3 old men's hearts itch. After reading the letter, Zhang Zhong wrote a memorial and had the pigeon bring it to the capital to ask for a decree. He had to implement this matter. Without a decree, it would be hard to say what would happen if the other party changed their mind. Half a day after the pigeon flew away, Zhang Zhong found the 3 old men and showed them the 1-page letter. It was the 2 policies that Zhang Xiaobao proposed. After reading it, just as Zhang Xiaobao said, Old Man Pai was dumbfounded. He had thought of several possibilities, but he didn't expect that Xiaobao, a child that he would slowly nurture in the future, would propose such a request at this time and split the policies into 2. He shook the letter in his hand and said to Old Man Chang and Old Man Yao, Do you understand? The first request is for a piece of land here or in Hebei province. I think his family wants to go to Hebei province. Why would they want to go there? The land here is absolutely impossible. Otherwise, with the Zhang family's business here, Jiannan province will become his family's in the future. The second request is for a desert. The desert is not under the control of the Great Tang. If he has the ability to occupy it, no one will say anything. Why did he propose it alone? Xiaobao, this child, also learned bad things and knows how to play with people. Old Man Chang didn't think much about this matter. After listening to Old Man Pai's words, he didn't respond. Old Man Yao pondered for a full quarter of an hour before he spoke. According to the way the Zhang family did things in the past, the Zhang family did a lot of inexplicable things and obtained benefits in the end. Since it was proposed by Xiao Bao, even if Xiao Bao didn't learn all of the master's skills, he probably learned most of them. They are now in the desert. Do you guys think they found something good? Will they use it in the future? That's not right. Even if they found something good, who can say what will happen in the future? It's estimated that 10 years later, that place will still be Tubo territory. It won't hurt to give it to him. Think about it carefully. It's not simple. What's not simple? I think Xiao Bao deliberately wants that place to confuse us. If he wants it, we'll give it to him. It's not like the land of our dynasty. If he has the ability, he can go and earn money. Old Man Chang was very direct. If that's the case, then fine. We'll also write a letter and send it to the capital. Old Man Pai still couldn't figure out what Zhang Xiaobao was planning to do. The second request wasn't much of a request. It was other people's land, so it was given away just like that. The three of them wrote a letter and had a pigeon bring it to the capital. Thinking about this matter, they slowly fell asleep. Early the next morning, Zhang Zhong started to get busy again. After arranging the road construction, he had the people in the inner court take care of it. He found the three old men to discuss the first policy given by the imperial court. He took out Zhang Xiaobao's letter and said to the three old men, "Let's make clear first. We can't go back on the first policy. Lord Bai, the three of you can't write another letter." Chapter 643. Zhang Zhong's words made the three old men's hearts skip a beat, especially Old Man Pai and Old Man Yao. They suddenly had a bad feeling. Old Man Pai gave Old Man Yao a look, meaning to ask, "Did you see anything wrong with the first policy given by the imperial court? Could it be that the 30% tax exemption was too much? Or should the Zhang family be responsible for 20% of the medical center? There had to be something wrong. Otherwise, Zhang Zhong wouldn't have said it in advance." Old Man Yao thought about it carefully and couldn't find anything wrong. This proposal was also thanks to him and Old Man Pai. At first, it was said that the Zhang family would be given 50% of the tax exemption, 30% of the road repair, and 20% of the medical center. In the end, the imperial court was even more ruthless and directly changed the road and business. Gently shaking his head, Old Man Yao took the letter and began to read it. Old Man Pai and Old Man Chang also came forward and read it from beginning to end. The more the three old men read, the more frightened they became. The more they read, the more they regretted it. The more they read, the more they hated the people in the imperial court who changed the road repair and business. Zhang Zhong didn't care about the three old men. He got up and walked around with his hands behind his back. He thought that the three old men wouldn't go back on their words. If they really wrote a letter to the capital, he would retire and go back to his hometown. The three old men really didn't have any intention of writing a letter to the imperial court. Even if they regretted giving such a policy, there was no other way. It wasn't that the policy was bad, but that kid Xiao Bao had become smarter. According to this, if other people want to build roads in the future, they will learn from the Zhang family's method. Their family will open their business next to the newly built roads, and it will be the same for the medical center. Their family is prepared to invest 200,000 strings of coins, 100,000 strings of coins to build the roads, and 40,000 strings of coins to build the medical center. They are even willing to provide the doctors themselves. The remaining 60,000 strings of coins will be open for business. It doesn't look bad. If you don't have any other tricks up your sleeves, you can say that you're truly serving the country and its people. There's nothing to nitpick about it. But with the other tricks up your sleeves, you're being too much of a bully. Old Man Pai stared at the solution at the back and said excitedly. Old Man Chang chuckled and didn't care anymore. He sat at the side and drank his tea. This wasn't something he could control. He knew that with his ability, Even if he had any ideas to restrict the Zhang family, he would still be used. Old man Yao gritted his teeth that had already lost a few. He nodded and said, "Admirable, truly admirable." He actually brought up the matter of road repair and asked the local merchants where they needed to repair the road. He drew a few lines that would not clash with the current road, and he wanted to build new roads where there were no roads. If other merchants wanted to make way for the new road, or if they wanted to do business on the side of the new road, they would have to fork out money to build the new road. If they didn't fork out money, the Zhang family wouldn't build the road where they needed it. They would just take care of themselves. When the time came, he would put down the clinic and use the 60,000 strings of coins to build a big market related to trade at an important location on the side of the road. He would use it to attract people to take the good road. At the same time, the Zhang family's fleet would also specifically travel on this road and sell the goods they transported from other places in the market. Hiss. How did Xiao Bao come up with this idea? What's even more ruthless? In addition to letting the merchants use the money to repair the road, he would also use a portion of the money to invest in the Zhang family shops. The money used by the Zhang family to build the road would take up 20% of the entire shop or market, and the technology used by the Zhang family would take up 40%. What does this mean? After Old Man Yao analyzed it, he asked Old Man Pai, who had also thought of this matter. Old Man Pai could now calculate such things. He said, "This means that the 60,000 strings of coins of the Zhang family can be used for a lot of transactions. Others would have to invest at least 120,000 strings of coins to take up the other 40%. In other words, the real money used by the Zhang family to open a business is 180,000 strings of coins. They only used 40% of the technology to expand their business by 3 times. Look, there's another benefit for the merchants. This time, when they return, a portion of the things they plunder will be given to the imperial court, and the other portion will be sold. This will be considered the first transaction in the market in the future. Furthermore, in the future, they will organize caravans to go to the desert to collect useful things. Isn't that the land that Xiaobao wants? With this excuse, they can go out as they please. As for whether they're going to the outside world to do business with Tubo that won't affect the Great Tang, or to really go to the desert to collect things, or to directly plunder, they have proof. Good. Good, Xiao Bao is really amazing. His calculation is really too good. No wonder his family put in so much effort to build the road this time. They used cement to reinforce the tunnel and even blew up the mountain. So it turns out that they want to build a very good road. Old Man Pai suddenly felt that he was old, really old. He couldn't guess the final goal of the other party just by thinking about it. He had to analyze it from the concrete plan. Who was the one who suggested that they take up 50% of the road? With this, the Zhang family could use this condition to make as much money as possible. The merchants wouldn't object, and they wouldn't dare to hide and not fork out money. The Zhang family's financial resources were enough to support themselves. If they didn't invest now, they wouldn't have such a good opportunity in the future. If they wanted to invest again, they would have to pay a much higher price. Old Man Yao also smacked his lips as he looked at the plan. The most important point isn't this. Look, this is saying that the Zhang family will invest 100,000 strings of cash to build the road. If that's 10% of the total investment, then the others will have to work together to fork out 900,000 strings of cash. With 1,000,000 strings of cash, what kind of road can they build? Connecting the entire Jiannan circuit. The Zhang family will be responsible for providing the technology to buy and sell the key roads in the future. They will form a large chamber of commerce and share a portion of the resources. However, the 1,000,000 strings of cash will still be used to buy cement and explosives. The cement and explosives will all belong to the Zhang family. How much money can they make from this? That's right. How much can they make? The price isn't low. I estimate that they can at least make 20% or 30% of the profits. All right, the Zhang family will be able to earn the money they invested here. Compared to them, they won't have to fork out a single copper coin. They will only be able to take advantage of us. They will just have to provide some technology in the future and bring merchants to Tubo to make money. Their family's caravan will enter Tubo to do business. They won't have to worry about being robbed or killed like other merchants. Who would dare to touch them? Those people are really tired of living. Cuckoo hasn't returned yet. Their family didn't contribute anything at all. I think that when we cooperate in the future, their family will still be able to take advantage of us. Old Man Pai really couldn't think of how Xiao Bao came up with this plan. This was the so-called to gain something without risking anything. Could this be the legendary cash flow? No, it shouldn't be. Otherwise, Cuckoo wouldn't have agreed. It seemed that this kind of method couldn't be used. He really wanted to see it for himself. Let them use it on other countries to see what exactly was going on. Compared to the current method, it would definitely be better. Zhang Zhong waited for a full half an hour before the three old men came over. When they came over, Old Man Pai said to Zhang Zhong, "Yongcheng, you are amazing. You gave birth to a good son and a good daughter-in-law. Don't worry, I won't write a letter to the capital. I reckon that even if I did, it would be too late. Before the pigeons can fly, the imperial court's decree will start to arrive." Sir Bai's praise is wrong. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo still have many things that they don't understand. They are just eager to learn. That's all. I hope that Sir Bai can help us in the future. Is this possible? If you feel that there is no benefit to the people and the country, I will write a letter and have Xiao Bao reformulate the plan. For people like my family, earning money is no longer the most important thing. Zhang Zhong said modestly and then asked about the policy. As he said this, he really did have the same thoughts in his heart. If it wasn't beneficial to the people, he would rather not earn too much money. The more Old Man Pai looked at Zhang Zhong, the more he liked him. It was true that the more money a person could earn, the less they would view money as important. Old Man Pai, who had been learning from the Zhang family for a long time, didn't teach for nothing. When he heard Zhang Zhong's thoughts, he said, "There are benefits. It's good for the country and the people. It's not that the merchants here don't have money. Some of them can't spend it locally, so they all go outside to invest. It's just right for them to take out their money. With your family's methods, they won't be able to cause any trouble. In the future, when you go to the capital or Luoyang, the imperial court won't have to worry about your Zhang family doing anything bad. The million strings of cash will be built very well, connecting the entire Jiannan circuit. At that time, the goods from other places can be transported here, and your family will have a new way to earn money. You can transport the goods from Jiannan circuit to other places to exchange for money. In addition, the merchants from Tubo can also come here to do business. There will be more medicinal herbs, and it will be helpful for medical research. Didn't your family mention economic control and plunder when you were in Luzhou a long time ago? It just so happens that you can use it in Jiannan circuit. As for Xiao Bao's future plans, my granddaughter has told me before. That is to buy a large amount of cattle, sheep, and horses from Tubo and provide them with luxury goods. The two will exchange. This way, Tubo's good land will gradually decrease. As for food, we can just exchange it with them from Great Tang. When Tubo's food supply is controlled to a certain extent, that will be the time when Tubo will become a part of Great Tang. If I had known earlier, I would have kept Xian Air by my side and asked her more questions. Now, it is already your world. Old Man Pai sighed with emotion. He really admired the children nowadays. Not to mention Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. Even his own granddaughter, Xian Air, knew how to analyze the situation from a better perspective. This was an economic war. Under the situation where military force was guaranteed, it was a war that killed without shedding blood. The ruthlessness and calculation were much more powerful than a war of military force. It could reach the level of subduing the enemy without fighting. Old Man Yao also had a similar idea in his heart. He looked at Zhang Zhong, a young man who no one could find fault with in terms of virtue, and said with a smile, "Your family can use the policies to calculate as much as you can. The more you calculate the people in the imperial court, the more the people in the imperial court will pay attention to this matter in the future. They will cultivate more economic talents and not put so much importance on grand scholars. The living eat, wear, and the living they can't do without money. Chapter 644. Since the three old men agreed, Zhang Zhong was relieved. He began to find people who had membership in the ski resort to discuss the investment. After the businessmen understood the whole plan, they immediately knew the means of the Zhang family. Some people really didn't want to help the Zhang family, but they had no choice but to pay. Although there was a road now, the road was not good and transportation was difficult. After the Zhang family finished building the road, there were corresponding measures, which made people tempted. Besides, there were many rich people in Jianandao. If they didn't pay, once others gathered enough money, they wouldn't have the opportunity to cooperate with the Zhang family in the future. They couldn't get new technology, and they couldn't seek benefits from the goods transported from other places with the Zhang family. They couldn't form a caravan and go out with the Zhang family to do business with Tubo. One by one, they said that they would go back and have a good discussion. Then, they left with a copy of the plan. Zhang Zhong had nothing to do at the moment. After thinking for a while, he called Mi Fan and the other two who had just arrived. After Mi Fan and the other two came to Izhou, they didn't stay idle. They had never been here before, so they were curious about everything, especially Jiu Meiling. She found everything interesting. She couldn't sleep much at night. She ran around, looked at the scenery of the snow mountain, and looked at the trees here. She was also fascinated by Xiao Bei and the other little guys. She wanted to join them and play with them. She wasn't a member of the Zhang family, so there were fewer restrictions on her. In addition, during the journey, she occasionally heard from Mi Fan and Han Xianfeng about the various things the Zhang family did. She was curious and began to ask the people in the inner courtyard of the Zhang family and Wang family. After asking once, she was satisfied and asked again. She never got tired of asking. Today, Zhang Zhong called the three of them. The three of them simply tidied up and went to Zhang Zhong's study. After the greeting, Zhang Zhong said to Mi Fan, you can go ahead and do what I've arranged for you. Remember, if you feel uncomfortable, think of a solution. If you can't, come back immediately. It doesn't matter even if the plan fails. Ever since Mi Fan had been dealt with by the Zhang family, he had been wholeheartedly doing things for the Zhang family. He admitted that the Zhang family's capabilities were much better than the ship company he used to work for. Hearing Zhang Zhong's warning, he immediately replied, Master, I understand. I will definitely do my job well. If there is any danger, I will avoid it. You brought me here because of this special ability of mine. Zhang Zhong nodded and looked at Han Xianfeng. Han Xuanfeng's father relied on the Zhang family to do good things. Now that he had been promoted, he wasn't as tired as before. The Zhang family took care of all the supporting matters. Therefore, Han Xianfeng was very respectful to Zhang Zhong. He stepped forward and waited for Zhang Zhong's orders. You're quite capable as well. I heard that you can speak the languages of several countries. You speak Tubo quite well. When you enter Tubo, don't give yourself away. In the few days between Izhou and when you come out of seclusion, there will be people from Tubo arranged to speak with you every day. Try to familiarize yourself with the local dialect. Zhang Zhong also warned Han Xianfeng. In the end, he looked at Jiu Meiling. Jiu Meiling wasn't under the Zhang family's jurisdiction, but at this moment, she felt uneasy. One reason was because of Zhang Zhong's temperament, and the other was because of the power of the Zhang and Wang families. The day hospital that she yearned for the most, but couldn't enter, was run by the Zhang family. She, who was usually muddle-headed, became sensible at this moment and stood out with a smile. Zhang Zhong also smiled and said, You're not a member of the Zhang and Wang families, so I shouldn't ask you to do anything. But this time, it's not only a matter of the Zhang and Wang families, but also the entire Jiannan circuit and Great Tang. I could have sent people from the inner court to follow you, but since you're proficient in the art of calculation, I'll let you go. If you make a contribution, the Zhang and Wang families will remember you, and the people of Jianan Circuit won't forget you. You'll also let the people of Great Tang see what it means to be a woman who isn't inferior to a man. Jiu Meiling nodded hard and promised, I usually don't say anything. I only help when you need me. I won't cause trouble for Great Tang. I want to make a request. When I come back, let me enter the day hospital. As long as it's where the Zhang and Wang families are, you can enter wherever you want. But you have to learn well. If you want to go somewhere else, the Zhang and Wang families will help you. Zhang Zhong gave Jiu Meiling a promise. Then he turned to Mi Fan and said, Get ready and set off. Take Hawksbill and Pearl with you. This time there are only 3 of you, and there's no backup. I can still delay you for a month. You have to do what you want within a month. If it doesn't work out, leave. Mi Fan suddenly felt a sense of heroism. She no longer had any worries or discomfort in her heart. She nodded solemnly, turned around, and strode away. Han Xianfeng and Jiu Meilong followed behind. The 3 of them would have to fight alone for a month. After the 3 of them left for a while, Zhang Zhong found 2 people from the inner yard and asked them to think of a way to infiltrate Tubo and protect Mi Fan and the other 2 in secret. If they were in danger, they had to send Mi Fan and the other 2 away first. Then they could reveal their identities and tell the Tubo that they were from the logistics camp in Izhou. They were also servants of Devilish Cuckoo and had come to deliver the letter of challenge. In this way, the Tubo people would have to consider Cuckoo's temper before they killed the 2 of them. When 2 countries were at war, they didn't kill the envoys. If they really killed the 2 of them, they would have to bear the revenge of Cuckoo. At that time, it wouldn't be a team of less than 10,000 people, but 100,000 border soldiers. They would enter Tubo's territory and ask if Tubo dared to do it. Zhang Zhong's arrangements were almost done. He felt much better, but the others might not feel the same. The Qi family had already raised the price of the grain by a lot, but the effect wasn't very good. Even if everything was 5 copper coins more expensive than what Zhang Zhong offered, the simple people weren't willing to sell. They were waiting for Cuckoo to come back, and for Zhang Zhong to send people to get the grain. This kind of integrity made the Qi family feel very helpless. In a country, the most frightening thing was the hearts of the people, especially when there was a general like Cuckoo here. For the sake of the people, there was a river of blood in Tubo. The 2 sides supported each other, so there was no hope of persuading the people here. He could only turn the pressure to the other merchants who cooperated with him and let them think of a way. It wasn't that the merchants who cooperated with the Qi family didn't want to try, but they didn't have a way. The people just didn't want to sell the grain, and those who had zhuangzi didn't sell much either. They all kept the grain. The people were waiting wholeheartedly for Zhang Zhong, and those who had zhuangzi didn't dare to sell. They were afraid of provoking the anger of the people. Helpless, the Qi family wrote a letter to the person who was in charge of this operation. The letter immediately came back. When the Qi family saw the letter, he felt slightly relieved and called all the merchants over. We're changing the plan now. Because we need money in other places, we can't take out too much money to collect the grain here. After the Qi family gathered all the merchants, he didn't beat around the bush and directly said what he wanted to say. Qi family, are you saying that we don't need to collect the grain anymore? Then give us the money that we should give for the grain collected before, otherwise we won't be able to make ends meet. A merchant immediately asked worriedly. They were currently putting in money. Now that Zhang Zhong wanted to find merchants to build roads and make money, they couldn't take out the money to follow him. They could only watch others take advantage of him. The other merchants also had the same idea. They all looked at the Qi family. As long as the Qi family said that they didn't want to collect the grain, they would have a good time. If they didn't, they would take the things that the Qi family used as collateral. The Qi family didn't expect the merchants here to stand on his side. Otherwise, how could they cooperate with him when they clearly knew that the increase in grain prices would have a big impact on the people? It was all about money. Looking left and right at the merchants, the Qi family spoke. Who said that we don't want to collect the grain? Accept it, but not as much as you want like now. On the surface, we'll accept the grain as soon as they bring it, but when it comes to the actual collection, we have to look at the grain. We'll accept all the new grain and delay the old grain. We'll tell them that we'll give them the money after half a month and write a receipt. We have to continue raising the price as well. For millet, we'll raise it to 45 copper coins for a bucket and 65 copper coins for a bucket of rice. If there's a delivery of grain, we'll accept it directly. If there's a large quantity, we'll have someone inspect it carefully. It'll be best if we wait for a few more days. Let's see if that Zhang doesn't spend money to collect the grain. What are the people without land going to eat? Just do as I say, and once it's done, we won't forget to reward you. When the chief family said those words, he was thinking about the mastermind behind the scenes. Incredible, truly incredible. Since he couldn't collect the grain, he would just have to mess up the economy of Jiannan. After all, the commoners had to eat, right? With such a high price, it was unlikely that those who had grain elsewhere would lower their prices. The merchants immediately understood what was going on. They weren't fools either, and they knew the consequences of doing so. If the chief family had told them about the arrangement from the start, they definitely wouldn't have agreed to it. But now that things had developed to this point, not only would they not be able to earn a single copper coin, they would also have to pay a huge sum of money. It wasn't easy for them to earn money, and they weren't as carefree as Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Thus, they could only follow this plan. From that day onwards, the price of grain in Jiannan rose again and again. The merchants didn't raise the price all at once. Instead, they first lowered the price by a few copper coins, then raised it by a few more copper coins, then lowered it by a few more copper coins, then raised it by a few more copper coins, then lowering it by a few more copper coins, then raising it by a few more copper coins, then lowering it by a few more copper coins, and then raising it by a few more copper coins, giving off an extremely unstable feeling. The plan was devised by the mastermind behind the chief family, and it worked extremely well. It managed to attract the attention of those who were still observing the situation. Thus, the merchants slowly dragged the matter out. Even 100 dan of grain required an entire day to be inspected. Those who sold their grain heaved a sigh of relief, while those who didn't were anxious, fearing that the price would change the next day. No one knew how much the merchants were willing to accept. If they didn't accept anymore, the price would be gone as well. Jiannan Circuit's grain would often fluctuate all of a sudden, causing the commoners to worry as well. They had to eat, and they didn't have any land to home. Seeing the price of grain fluctuating, they didn't know whether they should buy it or not. Furthermore, even when the price was low, it would still be much higher than before. Old Man Pai and the others were the first to lose their cool. They sought out Zhang, who was discussing the matter of investing in the road and partnering with the merchants. Yongcheng, what about Xiaobao's methods? We can't wait any longer. The commoners can't take it anymore. If we don't think of a way to resolve this matter, I'll take out my own grain and share it with the commoners. Old Man Pai was extremely worried. After seeing Zhang send off a happy merchant, he made a request to Zhang. Zhang really didn't understand today's situation. After hearing Old Man Pai's words, he asked someone to come over and ask. After understanding the situation, he took out his tea set. While making kung fu tea for the three old men, he said, "They can't take it anymore so quickly. I didn't expect that according to Xiaobao's estimation, we'll have to wait at least 2 to 3 days. It seems that the Tubo people are quite capable. They know how to use today's method. All right, then I'll take action. I'll open the Chongping warehouse in Ezhou and let the commoners receive grain according to their household registration. Those who don't farm can receive grain according to the number of people. Even if they're rich, they can also receive grain according to the number of people. If we snatch a lot of grain from the Tubo people, our family won't be able to finish it. We'll give it to the commoners and stabilize the market first. We'll wait for them to use other methods." Xiaobao said that economic warfare is very interesting. Unless there's no other choice, we can't reveal our trump cards. Of course, there are some people who don't know how to fight economic warfare. They only know how to scam the merchants in the end, but they don't care about how the commoners will be affected by the fluctuations. We can't blame them since they don't have the ability. Xiao Bao said that he definitely won't allow economic warfare to affect the commoners. When Zhang Zhong spoke, he puffed out his chest with pride. He was proud of himself and his son. Only his son could say such arrogant words. If he said that he wouldn't allow it, then he wouldn't allow it. Just like his daughter-in-law, he forced the Tubo army of 40,000 to stand guard and didn't dare to move forward. Old Man Pai and the other two were stunned by Zhang Zhong's words. They thought that Chang Pingsang was the last resort, but they didn't expect that it wasn't. The Zhang family still had a backup plan. Old Man Pai and Wei Wei nodded and took a cup of tea. They drank half of it and poured away the rest. They said to Zhang Zhong with satisfaction, "Yongcheng, this is the right way." It seems that Xiao Bao has learned a lot. The Zhang family's way of doing things is unpredictable. They always have a backup plan, making it impossible for others to guess where their bottom line is. Okay, Changpingsang in Kai province. Previously, we snatched a lot of grain from the Tubo people and forced their commoners to the other side of the river. They should be able to last for a while. Yongcheng, there's one more thing. Since we're giving grain to the commoners who don't farm, shouldn't we also give some to the commoners who farm? Otherwise, the commoners' hearts will be cold. Old Man Pai had also thought of the things that Old Man Pai was thinking about. He looked at Zhang Zhong from the side and waited for Zhang Zhong's reply. The commoners who were farming had left grain for Zhang Zhong, but in the end, Zhang Zhong had specifically given grain to the people who didn't farm. What would they think? Zhang Zhong held his teacup and looked at the three people's faces. He said, "There are misunderstandings. Otherwise, Chang Pingsang wouldn't be able to take care of so many commoners. Xiao Bao's plan would also be interrupted, and my family's loss would be great. After a while, we will compensate the commoners who are farming. But we absolutely can't do that now. Those who can't keep the grain can take this opportunity to sell it. Those who are willing to keep the grain, my Zhang family won't treat them unfairly. You don't have to worry about this matter. We have our own arrangements. It's a good opportunity to see how the people are feeling." Old Man Chang had already drunk several cups of tea in a row, but he still wasn't satisfied. When he was about to pick up a new cup and drink it, he heard Zhang Zhong's words. He said to Zhang Zhong, "Yongcheng, I'll remember what you said. When the time comes, if your family doesn't compensate, I'll hang myself in front of your house." "Don't, Uncle Zhang. Don't be like this. I'll definitely make arrangements. Don't worry, it's cold again. The construction in Kai province is almost done. We need to expand outward. No matter what, I have to make the commoners here better off before I leave Jiannan province. As for the war at the front line and the economic war at the rear, you don't have to worry too much about them. Those are small matters. Whether or not the commoners can live well is a big matter." Zhang Zhong smiled and stopped Old Man Chang. Old Man Chang had a bad temper. He couldn't do anything to the Zhang family, so he wanted to use his life to force them. Zhang Zhong didn't dislike it. After all, the three old men were wholeheartedly for the commoners. Old Man Chang's method was just a bit extreme, so it didn't matter. Old Man Pai and the other two got the answer they wanted. After drinking tea, they went fishing. Zhang Zhong immediately arranged for people to open up Changping's warehouse. He mobilized people to transport the grain to the areas affected by the grain price and distributed it to the commoners. A portion of the grain was given to the poor families for free, while the commoners were sold to them at the same price as before. Because the grain was stolen from Tubo, Zhang Zhong didn't keep it for himself. He also didn't want to earn money from it. He promised the commoners that the money from selling the grain would be given to them in another way. When the frontline matters were settled, it was more or less ready to operate. He told them to wait. When the Zhang family released Changping's warehouse and only targeted the people who didn't farm, the people who had grain felt uncomfortable. They hesitated and didn't know if they should sell the grain or not. Cuckoo was still fighting, but Zhang Zhong didn't consider them. How should they choose? Just as they were hesitating, Zhang Xiaobao's operation back then had an effect. The imperial court sent a decree to prove to the various prefectures of Jiannan that Cuckoo wasn't the commander of this war. They used her age to scare Tubo, and the real commander was someone else. At this time, the commoners also knew. They couldn't guess anything else, and could only choose to believe the imperial court. They knew that Cuckoo wasn't a powerful demon, and that there was an expert behind her. They used this to anger Tubo and mobilize Tubo's troops. Many commoners changed their minds and sold the grain in their hands to the grain collectors. Because the grain collectors controlled the amount of grain they bought and deliberately delayed, the commoners who sold the grain stood in a line at the place where they bought the grain. Seeing that the merchants were deliberately taking their time to buy the grain, the commoners couldn't stand it. They all clamored for the merchants to buy their grain at the price they offered. As a result, the pressure on the grain collectors increased. When they saw the angry commoners on the street waiting to sell their grain, they were afraid that the government would intervene. They had no choice but to find Master Qi. Master Qi didn't expect that Zhang Zhong's reaction would be so fast. He now knew that his economic war had been discovered by the Zhang family. All of their methods were targeted at his grain prices. Thinking that the economic war was revealed by the Zhang family, Master Qi couldn't hold it in anymore. He had no choice but to write a letter to the person behind this. He didn't think that the Zhang family couldn't see through the trick. After all, this was what they did. The person behind Qi Dongjia also replied within a short period of time. First, he reprimanded Qi Dongjia, saying that he couldn't keep his cool and messed up when encountering problems. Then, he mentioned a solution and told Qi Dongjia that as long as he thought about it carefully, there would be a solution. When Master Qi received the letter, he didn't care whether it was reprimanded or not. He acted as if he had found a treasure and found a group of merchants. Can't you all wait? If you can't hold it in when you encounter a small matter, what big things can you do in the future? Think about it carefully. There is actually a solution to any problem. Master Qi told the merchants what the person behind the scenes said to him. He put on the appearance of an expert. The merchants looked at each other. How could they think of a solution? They turned their heads and stared at Master Qi, waiting for him to make the arrangements. They wanted to see what kind of method he had. Master Qi enjoyed the feeling of being looked up by others. He said to the crowd, "It's very simple. First, take their grain, but don't give them money immediately. Tell them that we will give them money after the inspection. But we can write a written agreement. If the inspection is good, we will not accept the compensation. If we can't accept the compensation after the inspection, we will tell them the reason. As long as they can get through this period of time, you can do whatever you want." Master Qi, your idea sounds good. But what if there is really no money to accept the compensation? Don't tell me that we really have to compensate the people? A merchant thought for a while and found the key point of the problem. Master Qi was doing this. Wasn't he trapping them? The other merchants also thought of this. They all looked at Master Qi, waiting for a reasonable explanation. They couldn't be fooled. Master Qi already had a plan. He laughed and said, "You all, not only are you timid, you can't see the future clearly. How about this? If you really don't want to do it, then change the method. Tell the people selling the grain that you are buying grain for a person surnamed Chun. Ask them to send the grain to Tonghua County. There will be someone there to accept it. You don't have enough money to accept it." Master Qi really didn't want to do this. If he did, his usefulness would be reduced. The person behind the scenes mentioned this in the letter and asked him to make the arrangements himself. If one plan didn't work, then he would use another. Of course, the person behind the scenes saw him as someone who was very good at socializing. He thought that with his ability, he could make the merchants pay for the grain. It was his own lack of ability. He didn't want to admit this, and he didn't dare to delay this matter. He could only tell the other person. The two of them worked together. From now on, that person would be in charge. With a new method, the merchants were satisfied. They left happily and went to arrange their own matters. Soon, the people knew about this matter. After estimating the distance and transportation cost, they felt that there was still a lot of profit to be made. They either transported the grain themselves or found someone to hire horses and carriages. The grandiose transportation team headed for Tonghua County in Maozhou. The team was not small. The local transportation industry people had made a profit this time. They all raised the price. The reason was that the road was not easy to travel on. Also, the price of the livestock and food for the livestock was expensive. They could either wait for Zhang Zhong to fix the road or spend more money. Chapter 645. This time, Zhang Zhong needed Old Man Pai and Old Man Yao, especially Old Man Pai. He used to be an official in Ezhou and even investigated people in Jiannan Circuit. He was the perfect person to use. Old Man Pai was also surprised by Zhang Zhong's sudden arrival. He said to Zhang Zhong, "Yongcheng, we were just about to look for you. I didn't expect you to come. Just in time, accompany this old man fishing." Without saying anything, Zhang Zhong took out the fishing rod he had brought with him. He put the bait on and threw it into the river. He was already used to fishing when he talked to Old Man Pai. According to his son, this was a habit he had developed from being spoiled between the clouds and the water in Sanshui County. Old Man Pai also changed the bait. With a flick of his wrist, he let the hook go into the water. It was unknown what he was thinking. Did he know how to fish? In this kind of flowing water, he actually used a floater. He watched as the floater was washed away by the water and tilted the fishing line, but he didn't care. When Zhang Zhong saw this, he admired him. This was what it meant to be on the level. He said that he came out to fish in the water, but the servants at home gave him a rod with a bottom hook, saying that it was the fishing experience of the young master. Whoever used a floater in the water was stupid. Regardless of whether the rod was stupid or not, this kind of calmness was not easy for others to learn. It was admirable, truly admirable. It was probably because it was tiring to hold the rod, and there were too many tools that came with it. Otherwise, wouldn't official Bai have brought a whole bunch of fishing rods here to fish? Old Man Pai didn't have this kind of awareness. If it wasn't for the sake of talking, he would have used electricity. He would pull a net downstream and then use electricity upstream to catch the fish. It was convenient and effective. "Yongcheng, do you think my hook is not good?" Old Man Pai asked Zhang Sen after fishing for a while. Zhang Zhong said in his heart, "Isn't this nonsense? You shouldn't use this kind of pole at all." However, he couldn't say it so bluntly. That would be too unprofessional. Besides, Sir Bai wasn't asking about this matter. Therefore, Zhang Zhong thought for a moment and said, "Yes, Sir Bai, I think the current is too strong," so it drifted past. It would be good if it was stable, otherwise the fish would not take the bait easily. Yongcheng knows more. "Steady? Yongcheng, this fish is going crazy. Can you still hold on?" Old Man Pai asked Zhang Zhong as he slowly kneaded the fish bait mixed with fish bone powder and lard. Zhang Zhong glanced at it and thought that Sir Bai's heart was finally in a mess. Otherwise, who would use this kind of bait? This bait was used to catch the black fish, or it could be said that it was specially used to catch fish that ate fish. Without saying anything, Zhang Zhong directly took out some flour from the bag behind him. There was also some ground pork bone flour inside. He casually sprinkled it into the river and said to Old Man Pai, "If it makes a mess in the cage, it will still be in the cage. Could it hurt people?" Old Man Pai looked at Zhang Zhong in surprise, especially the thing that Zhang Zhong sprinkled in the water. He asked, "Yongcheng, you want to use the cage to keep the fish, then what are you sprinkling now?" Old Man Pai was very familiar with this kind of verbal confrontation. An expression, a movement, and even a look all contained different meanings. He had to ask. Zhang Zhong sprinkled 2 more handfuls of flour and answered, "I am making a whirlpool. When fishing, I use a lot of other things to attract fish. This is what a whirlpool is. When the time comes, I will put in good bait. When a lot of fish gather, they will be willing to come to the good bait. I see, but this is flowing water. Old Man Pai was not confused to this extent. How could one make a whirlpool in flowing water? Yes, flowing water. I can only make a whirlpool in one river and gather all the other fish, no matter if it is a tributary or a main stream. If they are too scattered, it will be difficult to catch them. I am afraid that they will not be together. As long as they are together and feel that this river is good, I will have a way to catch them all in one go. Zhang Zhong threw all his fishing rods into the river and said to Old Man Pai. This time, even old Zhang, who didn't know much about politics, understood what Zhang Zhong meant. Zhang Zhong wanted the grain collectors and livestock collectors to gather together so that they could deal with the problem together, unlike at the beginning when they were separated. Old Man Pai looked at Zhang Zhong and nodded with satisfaction. Zhang Zhong was finally able to act on his own. In the future, when he fought with others, he would know when to advance and when to retreat. He did not have to worry too much. He looked at Zhang Zhong now, as if he was looking at his own son. His son was an official elsewhere, so he could only treat Xiaobao, Cuckoo, and Xian Heir as his grandchildren. He treated Zhang Zhong as his son. Even if he often caused trouble for his son and grandchildren, it was to train them. Seeing Zhang Zhong's steady appearance, he asked, Yongcheng, are you going to use a fishing rod to catch them all in one go? No, the fishing rod is only for fishing. The fishing rod is for the fish who think they are smart. The net is also not for the fish. If you use a net, unless you use too much manpower, you will not be able to catch them. Even if you catch them, they will only be small fish. I am going to use this thing. As Zhang Zhong spoke, he took out a glass bottle from his bag. It was a very big bottle. It was difficult to see what was inside, but the twister on the bottle proved its power. Zhang Zhong took out the bottle and a fire scythe. After blowing on it, he smiled at Old Man Pai and the others. Old Man Pai and the other two immediately stopped fishing and turned around to retreat. They knew that this thing would explode, and it was a very powerful one. It was almost as powerful as the grenades that Cuckoo had brought. Zhang Zhong ignited the twister. After the twister burned into the bottle, he casually threw it. The bottle fell into the water, and Zhang Zhong immediately laid down. After the explosion, Zhang Zhong climbed up and looked at the fish that had been blown out of the water. He said to Old Man Pai, there are no real big fish, so it is not time to reel in the net. I will first blow them up, and then we will talk about it later. Old Man Pai and the others had nothing to worry about at this time. Since Zhang Zhong was already prepared, there was no need for them to worry. Old Man Pai changed the fishing rod. There was no float on the hook in front, but a lead block. He shook his hand and threw it into the water. Yongcheng, you just blew up a lot of fish, right? Take it back and let someone stew it. Stew it into a milky white soup. I'll go now. Zhang Zhong did not fish up the fish that had been blown up. He nodded, put away his things, and left to arrange the economic war. As for the stewing of the fish, he could arrange for someone else to do it. Xiaobao, we are about to set off. Have you made the arrangements? If we are too far away, Shuiyun will delay things. Without a satellite, it will be too tiring for me to command, and it will easily cause too many casualties. In the desert, Wang Wan felt that it was about time. She wanted to carry out the next step of the battle plan, so she said to Zhang Xiaobao, it's all arranged. That person from Tubo is quite smart. He knows how to divert the trouble. Unfortunately, his opponent is not an ordinary person from the Great Tang. I am not worried. What do you want to do? We will leave immediately. Zhang Xiaobao finally found a few snakes, the very poisonous ones. He shared the snake gall with Cuckoo and ate it raw. He also ate some garlic to avoid eating parasites. He did not know what he was thinking, but he did not use the strong wine. The remaining snake meat was given to Wang Wan to make soup. It looked like a lot, but after it was made, there were only 3 bowls. Zhang Xiaobao was not willing to eat it himself, so he gave one to Wang Wan and one to the 2 injured people who had not recovered yet. After sharing, he heard Wang Wan's call. He thought about his plan and felt that there were not many loopholes. so he signaled to Wang Wan to start. Wang Wan ordered the troops to pack up. She looked at the lake not far away, mounted the horse, and shouted to the soldiers to set off. The Tang army continued to move westward. After walking for a while, Wang Wan looked back at the lake and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "I really don't want to leave now. It is too comfortable to stay in this desert. Unfortunately, we don't have enough food. If we don't leave now, we won't be able to find enough food to feed nearly 10,000 people in a few days." Zhang Xiaobao nodded in understanding. It's about time. Don't always think about doing things perfectly. Just do your best. We will come back in the future. At that time, there will be no Tubo army waiting outside. That's right. This is our world after all. Let's go. Wang Wan urged the horse, and the entire army moved faster. The Tang army soldiers worshipped Wang Wan to the extent of a deity. General Wang said that the Tubo army wouldn't dare to come in, so the Tubo army really didn't dare to come in. They could bathe here, catch the insects and snakes in the desert, and even eat the things in the desert. This life was really good. If it wasn't for the lack of food, perhaps they could stay here for another month or two. At this moment, they were moving westward. It seemed that General Wang wanted to take a big detour and go behind the Tubo army to launch a sneak attack. All the soldiers guessed. They didn't have the fear of death in the war anymore. Their lives were no longer that important. How many enemies were heroes? If they could go back alive, they would have a good life. Even if they died, their families would also be taken care of. When they came out, they had already thought it through. At this time, Wang Wan also didn't think about the life and death of the soldiers. She knew that if she thought too much, she would stop moving forward. If she wanted to be a general, she couldn't care about the life and death of every soldier. If she could take care of them, she could only take care of them. If she couldn't, she could only resign herself to fate. Leading the army all the way to the west, Wang Wan didn't forget to arrange for Shuiyun. She said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Xiaobao, I'll leave you here. Haven't you been a little familiar with communicating with Shuiyun these few days? You stay here and catch up with us after 3 days. This is under the condition that we don't encounter the enemy. If we encounter them, come immediately." Zhang Xiaobao revealed a smile and nodded to Wang Wan. "Don't worry, I will survive. I am Zhang Xiaobao, the Zhang Xiaobao who was hated by countless people. Even the police dogs couldn't track me, let alone the Tubo people. Even if Shuiyun didn't take me to find you, I would still rush back to Izhou. I don't believe that there is anyone who can compare to me in individual special forces. Then be careful. Remember, without you, I will definitely not be able to live by myself. It's very boring. Let's go." Wang Wan left these words and gradually disappeared from Zhang Xiaobao's sight with the army. Zhang Xiaobao turned his head and looked at Shuiyun, who was as smart as a human, standing on his shoulder. He said, "I'll rely on you for the rest of the days. If we really encounter danger, you run first. Don't worry about me. In this vast desert, I can't play with them to death." Shuiyun was indeed different from ordinary falcons. It was very sensible and knew that it had temporarily changed masters. It affectionately rubbed its head against its new master, who often caught snakes and skinned them for meat. After calling out, it flew into the blue sky. Lufutuda didn't know that Wang Wan's army had moved. Looking at the falcon that appeared in the sky every day, he thought that Wang Wan was resting in the desert. He really wanted to get this falcon down. It was too annoying. In the few days that he couldn't wait any longer, he sent 2 teams of soldiers, a total of 200 people, to check, but in the end, not a single one returned. It was all because of this falcon. 2 days ago, he sent 100 people to take advantage of the fact that the falcon had flown away and hadn't returned. In the end, after the teams entered, the falcon returned 4 hours later. How could it return in such a timely manner? There was no need to count on those 200 people. They didn't have a chance to return. Not to mention this falcon. Even if it didn't, the enemy would have discovered it in advance. Perhaps because they discovered it, they didn't immediately attack, but instead formed an encirclement. How could Demon Fiend Cuckoo not think of this kind of thing that even he could think of? Useless spies. 2 days ago, they even sent a message saying that the person in command here wasn't Cuckoo, but someone else. Wasn't that stupid? He and Cuckoo had fought a few battles, but he still didn't know who was in command. During the battle, how could he not see Cuckoo's dispatch clearly? There was only a messenger beside him. How could there be an expert? Not to mention that there wasn't an expert, even if there was, he didn't see it. So what? He was facing the enemy here. Whether it was an expert or Cuckoo, could it be that they weren't commanding the army? Didn't he have to face them? His opponent was the current Tang army. It didn't matter who was in command. The falcon isn't here yet. What are you all doing? Didn't you say to go back and find someone? The more Luftwaffe thought about it, the more sullen he felt. Just because of a falcon in the sky, he was stuck here and couldn't move. Who knew if the Tang army would take advantage of his carelessness to launch a sneak attack? When Zhang Xiaobao led a falcon to confuse the enemy, 3 days had passed. Zhang Xiaobao didn't hesitate and immediately put on a leather rope for himself. He even specially left a piece of rope so that he could tie it around the falcon's claws. This was to prevent Shui Yun from being too happy and letting go of its claws. If that happened, he would die unjustly. Just as Zhang Xiaobao and Shui Yun were about to leave, Luftwaffe's long-awaited falcon squad finally arrived. There were 12 people. Including the 2 people who went to find someone, there were a total of 14 people. They brought 12 falcons with them. Once they arrived, the falcons flew up. Zhang Xiaobao saw it. Shui Yun saw it too. Zhang Xiaobao whistled hard to call Shui Yun down. Shui Yun probably estimated the number of people on both sides and wisely chose to change tactics. It could be said that it was a strategic retreat. With a cry, he dove down towards Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao was already prepared. When Shui Yun flew over, he ran forward and jumped. He straightened his back in the air. The moment he jumped, Zhang Xiaobao chose to believe in Shui Yun. If someone saw his jump at this time, they would be shocked. When he ran and jumped, he was actually 5 feet above the ground. His body was very free, even in such a situation. At this moment, he was the Zhang Xiaobao that made countless special forces feel helpless. Shui Yun didn't let down its unique battle falcon name. It immediately found the right position and pulled Zhang Xiaobao up. It allowed Zhang Xiaobao to tie the rope around its feet. Run, we can't beat them. There are too many of them. When Zhang Xiaobao was caught, he didn't forget to shout. He didn't care whether Shui Yun understood him or not. Shui Yun cried and flapped its wings. It flew in the direction of Wang Wan's squad. Behind it, the 12 falcons were closely following. Don't be afraid, I'm still with you. Let's fight together. When we find Cuckoo, you dive down. If they dare to dive down with you, they'll all be turned into spiked falcons. It's a new breed. Zhang Xiaobao took out the 2 guns at his waist and checked them. He didn't forget to shout at Shui Yun. Shui Yun tried its best to fly. It wasn't stupid. It wouldn't fight against 12 falcons alone. The 12 falcons didn't have any burdens. Their flying speed was naturally fast. No matter how strong Shui Yun was, it couldn't increase its speed by catching a person. Luftwaffe rode on his horse and chased after them. He had already seen that there was a person below the falcon. It was the person who was with Cuckoo. He didn't know what he did. According to the intelligence, he was Zhang Zhong's son. Was he here to play? Catch him and kill that falcon. Luftwaffe was very excited when he thought of a chance to catch the son of Izhou Provincial Governor Zhang Zhong. He shouted from below. The 12 eagles gradually approached the water cloud and continued to rise higher. Zhang Xiaobao also saw this situation. He shouted at Shui Yun, if you're really smart, fly higher. Don't worry about me. My regulating ability is not bad. I'm not afraid of short of oxygen. Let's work together and get rid of them. Shui Yun didn't know if it understood Zhang Xiaobao's words or if it was due to its instincts during battle. Shui Yun really did try its best to fly higher. Relying on its different physique compared to normal falcons, it gradually occupied the sky. The 12 falcons weren't afraid. After all, they had a lot of people. They also tried their best to catch up. They wanted to catch this seemingly powerful fellow. Luftfutura led his team and chased with all his might. He wasn't slow at all. When he saw the 12 falcons gradually approaching, a smile finally appeared on his face. At this time, Zhang Xiaobao finished checking the gun. He took a deep breath and shouted at Shui Yun, "Turn, let's fight out with them. I can at least kill 6 of them. I can also cover for you. Don't be afraid. My stiletto is longer than their claws." Perhaps the water cloud really did understand. It flew up a little more, drawing a very beautiful arc, and rushed towards the left wing of the pursuing eagles. Its eyes were wide open, and its mouth was slightly moving. That falcon also gathered its courage and rushed towards Shui Yun. It wanted to use itself to delay Shui Yun. Just as the 2 falcons were about to come into contact with each other, Zhang Xiaobao's gun rang out. How could the falcon that was rushing towards them expect such a weapon? It didn't have any time to react. Its head was instantly smashed into pieces. Go! 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 Zhang Xiaobao put the gun back on his waist and shouted excitedly. Ga! Shui Yun didn't expect to get rid of an opponent so quickly. It cried out, shook its wings, and turned around to continue. With another bang, the second falcon was shot down. The scattershot flew out and scraped the neck of the other falcon. That falcon immediately left the team in fear and flew back. Zhang Xiaobao took out the short crossbow on his back and continued to charge with Shui Yun. This kind of aerial battle was very comfortable. The main thing was that Shui Yun was very good at adjusting its position. It had the height and speed and was very agile. Zhang Xiaobao felt that it was more comfortable to charge from above. The third falcon was shot down by him. He didn't use the crossbow, but a sleeve arrow. The members of the seedling protection team already had so many things on them. How could he not have enough? Another sleeve arrow took care of the 4th falcon. Shui Yun excitedly continued to chase. With a dive, the 5th falcon was killed. This time, it wasn't Zhang Xiaobao's crossbow arrow, but the flying locust needles on Zhang Xiaobao's belt. When the 6th falcon was shot down by Zhang Xiaobao with the short crossbow, Zhang Xiaobao changed the weapon in his hand to the short bow. He also held the military knife parallel to the bow arm and was ready to continue the battle. The remaining 6 falcons were finally scared and flew down. Before Zhang Xiaobao shouted for Shui Yun to retreat and stop chasing, Shui Yun knew what to do. It was also scared of the arrows below and didn't have any intention of chasing. It flapped its wings and ran away. Luftfutura and his cavalry watched the man and the falcon leave just like that. Motherf ***, he ran away? What was that thing? He took care of a falcon in one move. Luftfutura looked up at the sky and said in a daze. There were already people around him picking up the 6 falcons that were shot down. The 12 falcons helplessly sighed. They understood that the dead falcons were still okay. The remaining 6 falcons had lost their courage to continue the battle. Falcons were like hunting dogs. When they met a strong opponent, they would either fight to the death or become useless. Chase, chase. That Xiaobao probably can't do anything anymore. Luftfutura didn't know so much and still shouted at the 12 people. One of the 2 original falconers stepped forward and explained, "General, we can't chase after it. Since the falcon has returned, as long as we meet this falcon in the future, we won't have the courage to fight with it. It's just like some people, once they've been beaten into submission, they won't dare to summon up the courage to fight again." Luftfutura didn't expect this result. He looked at the person who spoke and then at the 6 falcons that landed on the ground. He thought for a while and sighed. Sigh, don't they know that they didn't lose to the falcon? But that person? Won't it be like this in the future? General, it's more or less the same. They probably knew that it was that person, but that person isn't important. What's important is that they know the difference between them and the falcon. The remaining 6 falcons didn't dare to go over, which means that the falcon can definitely win against them. Look, that falcon was carrying a person and was very agile. What if that person wasn't there? The eagle trainer who spoke just now added. Luftfutura didn't want to believe this fact, but he had to. Wasn't he also forced to not move because of that person? That person was strong. His falcon was strong too. What else could he say? He helplessly said to everyone, "Let's go back and continue to guard there. Maybe they won't have anything to eat in a few days. They will have to fight eventually." Chapter 646. The autumn sky was blue, and the maple leaves were red, swaying with the wind. The desert was desolate, and the light cavalry was nowhere to be found. The rich went hunting while the poor were pickling vegetables. The Tang Empire and Tubo discovered something at the same time. Cuckoo's light cavalry was gone, and there was no more news from Pengzhou. Lufutuda let the falcons circle the sky, but they couldn't find the 10,000 people hiding. He sent a small team into the desert to take a look, but they still didn't find any traces. He wanted to send a large team into search, but he was worried that they would be ambushed, so he could only foolishly wait. He also cooperated with the people of another division to train the troops when he had nothing to do. Zhang Zhong also didn't get any news for 10 days. He was worried, so he tried not to think too much. Old Man Pai and the other two were also restless. They didn't know what the two little guys were going to do, and they didn't even give them a letter. The three couldn't sleep at night, so they put on their clothes and went to find Zhang Zhong. They didn't care if Zhang Zhong was sleeping or not, but the servant told them that Zhang Zhong went to the little girl and the little boy. The three then went to Xiao Bei and the other little guys. When they arrived, they found that Zhang Zhong was persuading the little guys to sleep. During the day, the little guys missed their brother and sister and kept asking them to come back. The maids didn't listen to them no matter what. In the end, Pomegranate, who tried to use the wood of the maple tree to grow fungi, took a few maple leaves and stuck them on the folded paper boats. She asked the little guys to write what they could think of on the boats, and sent someone to send them to the river and put them in the water. She said that Xiu Feng would take the maple leaves to tell the little boy and little girl, and they would come back when they knew. In the end, the little guys were led to the mountain to pick maple leaves. They picked a lot of them, and when they came back, they folded the paper boats and stuck them on themselves. They put one on the side and planned to put it in the river at dawn. They didn't sleep. After Zhang Zhong found out about the situation, he came over to persuade them. He arrived not long before Old Man Pai and the other two. The little guys were not very nimble, and when they stuck the maple leaves on their bodies, they got sticky all over their bodies. However, they did not care. They stuck the maple leaves excitedly, and had already stuck more than 500 boats. "I'll just write, 'I miss you guys.'" "No, I've already written, 'I miss my brother.'" "No, I've already written." When the three old men arrived, Xiao Bei was frowning as she tried to think of a vocabulary. How much vocabulary did she have? She wrote down everything that she could think of, but there were a few that were repeated. She was so anxious that her little mouth was pursed, and it looked like she was about to cry. The old man Pai walked in front of Xiao Bei, reached out his hand, and touched Xiao Bei's hair as he said, "Just write that the mountains are high and the rivers are far apart, and the heart is bright." Xiao Bei was stunned. She raised her head to look at Old Man Pai, then lowered her head to think. Perhaps she did not understand the meaning of the sentence, but she still nodded and signaled to the person beside her to write it down. Old Man Yao said enviously, "It seems that the heavens have given all the best things to the Zhang family and the Wang family. How many brothers and sisters in the officials like the two families can be like this? I'll also help you think of one. Just write that the stars are scarce and the sun and the moon are scattered, and which flowing clouds hold the promise together." The little guys did not understand the meaning, but it sounded good, so they asked someone to write it down. Xiao Bei raised her head and looked at her father with an expectant gaze. How could Zhang Zhong refuse? He also said, "The bright sun always shines on the body at home, and the hazy rain at the border does not blow people away. Xiao Bei, let father hug you. You are all father's good children." Old Man Chang could not think of a sentence, so he took a piece of paper and folded a boat. As he folded, he said, "You are all great talents and can come up with ideas as soon as you open your mouth. I can't. I'll fold a boat for the little guys." Fold a tall boat just like their house. The sensible maidservant at the side immediately took the opportunity to say, "Xiao Bei, why don't we go to sleep and let master write it?" "No." Xiao Bei turned her head away. "Then let's watch from the side and let others read it. If we hear something good, we'll write it down?" The maidservant suggested again. Xiao Bei thought about it and realized that she really could not speak, but she also could not write. She nodded and said, "Okay." She agreed, and the other little guys also agreed. They all sat to the side obediently, listening to others speak and watching others write. Thus, the old housekeeper, whom even Zhang Juling respected very much, folded boats for the little guys. The Prime Minister of 3 Dynasties, Yao Cheng, the former Crown Prince of the Ministry of Revenue, Zhan Shi, the Inspector of Jiannan, and the top scorer of the Jinshi examination, the Provincial Governor of Izhou, began to write for the little guys. Some people from the inner courtyard also joined in. Even so, the 3 old men and Zhang Zhong were very happy. It was really difficult to get the little guys to agree. Usually, the little guys only listened to Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. The food they ate was made by Xiao Bao, and Cuckoo was their favorite. The stories they listened to were told by Xiao Bao and Cuckoo the most. There were many people who wanted to come over and establish relationships with the little guys to flatter them, but the little guys did not give them face. It was really not easy to get the little guys to agree even once. They did not care whether you had power or money. They had their own set of attitudes towards people and things. The people from the inner courtyard were also very enthusiastic. A male chauffeur, who was responsible for following the little guys and carrying things and moving things, said at this time, "I'll also write one. 100 turns of steep mountains cannot hide Ridge Road. Wrong, it's a blind pair." When Wang Wan's younger brother heard this, he looked over angrily and said, "The forest is opposite the dock. The ridge is opposite the mountain. The daytime is opposite the spring. There is a ridge, and you still say ridge? Then you say it." Xiao Bei was listening and was interrupted, so she said with dissatisfaction, I'll say it. 100 against 1,000, turn against turn. Steep mountains against blue mountains. Green mountains cannot hide. Blue water cannot hide. 100 turns of steep mountains cannot hide. 1,000 turns of mountain range cannot hide. Wang Wan's younger brother said with his chest puffed out. Xiao Bei seemed to have seen something novel. She turned her head and looked over. She looked at this guy that her older brother and sister had said could be like her older brother and sister in the future and be together with her. Old Man Pai and the other 2 people, as well as Zhang Zhong, were also shocked. Zhang Zhong knew that Cuckoo's younger brother, Xiao Yuan, was usually smart and could remember what others said, but he did not expect him to be smart to this extent. The first part that Zhang Zhong understood was something that Cuckoo had specially taught to the village children in the past. The latter part was not. How did this child learn it? Old Man Zhang felt that this silly little fellow was fun to play with, like his older sister. Old Man Bai sighed at the fact that another genius had appeared in the Wang clan. Old Man Yao, on the other hand, was extremely jealous. All the good things were happening between their 2 clans. How were other people supposed to live? It seemed that he had to look around in his own clans and send those around the same age to learn together. The teachings of an expert could not be monopolized by the 2 clans. Zhang Zhong went over and picked Xiao Yuan up to take a closer look. He kissed him and praised, "Good. Xiao Yuan, learn well. Write this down." The people in the inner courtyard immediately started writing. They appeared to be much calmer. With the existence of the young master, young lady, and young immortal, they could accept even the most unusual things. The night passed in a warm and excited atmosphere. The little guys did not stay up until dawn. They fell asleep while listening. Other than the stars in the sky, there were also many small boats that accompanied them. Zhang Zhong, who had stayed up all night, went to take a bath. He also had a massage and drank a bowl of soup. Then he took the snacks and small abalones prepared by his family and went to work on the road repair and fighting with people. Old Man Pai and the other 2 were old and did not sleep much. They just needed to lie down for a while, take a steam bath, sit in a carriage, and travel on the newly repaired road. They drank truffle soup and ate buns while they were eating. They also followed Zhang Zhong to work. Bai Shu and Yao Chong originally wanted to relax, but when they were free, they realized that they could not adapt at all. They were destined to be busy for the rest of their lives. Old Man Chang was the same. He worried about this and that. When he came to Lu Zhou in the past, he was on the verge of death. Later on, when he was busy and had to take care of himself, his body recovered. After what happened last night, Old Man Chang began to write a letter to Zhang Juling. He warned the servants in the family not to think that they were great just because of the master. Look at the servants of Zhang family and Wang family. Any one of the servant girls could write delicate and beautiful words. They could accompany you in reciting poems and couplets. Even when they were working outside, they did not show the slightest disdain. They knew when to advance and when to retreat, and they knew how to behave. If one day they met their own servants, and the servants behaved too much, it would be a slap to their own face. Old Man Pai was also very emotional. He used to think that he knew the Zhang family and Wang family very well. This time, he went one step further. The servants of the two families could recite poems and couplets, write calligraphy, and draw. It was so convenient to use them. He did not know if he should be happy that the Zhang family had so many good servants or sad that they had such capable servants. Old Man Yao swallowed a steamed bun and wanted to eat more. Suddenly, he remembered the Zhang family doctor's words. He could not eat too much. No matter how good the food was, he could only eat until he was 70% full. He reluctantly took back his hand and said, "The fall of a leaf reveals the autumn of the world." The Zhang family and Wang family are unstoppable. If they win this economic war again, it will be difficult for the imperial court to arrange official positions for them next year. Official positions are not difficult. I can see something about the Zhang family. They don't care if there are high-ranking officials with real power. As long as others don't provoke them, they are not afraid. Occasionally, they will scheme against the important ministers in the imperial court and the emperor. It's not a big deal. I feel that they are just playing. They are playing according to the rules of the game. You see, when we came here, the emperor schemed against them once. They showed that they were angry, but they were not really angry. They did not seem to care about this kind of scheme, or it could be said that they looked down on this kind of scheme. They let Xiao Bao and Cuckoo ask for benefits. This is also the existence of rules. If you scheme against others and want to use others, you have to pay an extra price. If you give them the corresponding exchange conditions, they will continue to play with you. If you don't, they will not play. This is a kind of detached mentality. They look down on everyone in the world. At the same time, they are not arrogant. Their family is like this. Old Man Pai summed up his opinion of the Zhang family and Wang family through his own observation. They did not care about what they had to give or receive, but whether or not they followed the rules. If they were really schemed against, they were willing to lose more benefits. However, if it was not this kind of relative fairness, they would not be happy. It was like playing a game of Monopoly. Winning or losing did not matter. The main thing was that you could not cheat when playing with them. Old Man Yao thought about it and found that it was true. As you said, they are like immortals who came to the human world to play. This is the feeling, right? Old Man Yao said and felt lucky. Fortunately, they came to the Tang Empire. Otherwise, the Tang Empire would be in trouble if they went to other places. Chapter 647. The sudden news shocked the three old men. Why did they suddenly lower the price? Catch up with Governor Zhang's carriage. Old Man Pai could not figure out how the Tubo people operated. He could only chase after Zhang Zhong and ask him. Xiao Bao had not sent any news for many days, and he did not know if Zhang Zhong could handle it. Did they need to mobilize the experts of the Zhang family? After a while, the two carriages joined together. Zhang Zhong asked them to stop and open the curtains. He looked through the glass window. The three old men walked down one after another. Old man Chang knocked on the door of Zhang Zhong's carriage. Yongcheng, open the door. Uncle Zhang, official Bai, official Yao, please come in. Zhang Zhong did not know what was going on, so he opened the door and let them in. When the three old men entered, they started to sniff. There was a very faint fragrance in Zhang Zhong's carriage. It was not the fragrance of sandalwood, nor was it the fragrance of agarwood. It was the fragrance of flowers, but they did not know what flowers they were. When they looked at Zhang Zhong's carriage, they found that it was changed. It was not the original one. It was more spacious than the original one, and the layout inside was slightly different. Old Man Pai looked around and was not in a hurry to talk. He asked, Yongcheng, your carriage? It was changed. The original carriage was taken away by my father. My father also has an official position. He needs a good carriage when he goes out. I wanted to make a new one for my father, but he did not agree. He took away my carriage and asked me to make a new one. All fathers in the world are like this. They give good things to their children. When Xiaobao and Cuckoo come back, I will ask them to help me decorate the carriage. They have a lot of ideas and know what to do. An old man can be comfortable. Official Bai, are you smelling the ink? Here, the ink made by my family was just made not long ago. Xiaobao and Cuckoo said that the fragrance of lotus flowers was good, so Hua Jing suggested it. The cuckoo is said to be pure and clear, to be seen from afar, but not to be touched. It is the flower of a gentleman, so I added it to the ink. Between the lines of painting and calligraphy, the ink contains a fragrance, faint but not dissipating, not disappearing for a long time. It lingers around a gentleman. Why should I fear enchanting? I used it. Although I am not a gentleman, I have a pure and clear heart. Zhang Zhong explained the reaction of the carriage and the three old men. Ah, there is such a good thing? Yongcheng, if you have good things in the future, you have to think about the poor old man first. The things in your family are not stained with gold or silver, nor are they inlaid with jade, but any one of them is not simple. I just ran out of ink. Last night, I was worried about where to find more ink. You have some, give me a few pieces. I will use them first. Old Man Pai's eyes lit up when he heard Zhang Zhong's words. Good things, really good things. He was really good at hiding. If he didn't come here today, he didn't know how long he would be kept in the dark. The things in the Zhang family were really good. They were grand, but not extravagant. They really had the style of a big family. Zhang Zhong had long been used to being robbed. He nodded. I haven't done any packaging yet. When I go back, I will use good wood to make an ink box and send it to the three of you. No need. If you make the packaging beautiful, what if I am reluctant to use it? It will be fine if it is scattered. 10 pieces, not too many. UNG, how many pieces do you want? Old Man Pai couldn't wait. They were family, so there was no need for packaging. He asked for 10 pieces right away. He didn't know how long he was going to use it, so he turned to ask Yao Chong. Yao Chong also liked the ink used by Zhang Zhong. He nodded embarrassedly and whispered, same. Old Man Chong saw that Old Man Pai didn't mention him, so he hurriedly said, same for me. He wanted to send it to Zhang Juling. Others saw Zhang Juling as a master, but he saw him as his own son. Zhang Zhong's father knew how to think for his son, so he had to think for his son. Zhang Zhong couldn't say anything. Just give it to him. 30 pieces of ink, and it was gone. Fortunately, his family made a lot of ink. Otherwise, there wouldn't be enough to send. After talking about trivial matters, Old Man Yao began to talk about business. Yongcheng, your family has enough food to make wine this time. You don't need to spend too much money. It's cheap, so the price has been lowered. But in the future, it will be expensive to use chicken soup, so the price has been raised. Zhang Zhong suddenly understood why the three old men came. It turned out that it was because of this matter. He took out a piece of paper from the drawer in the car, spread it on the small table, and said to the three old men, I just heard about it. Xiao Bao has already informed me in advance. There is a way to deal with it. Let's see. The three old men didn't expect that the news that just came today would be expected by Xiao Bao, who had disappeared for many days. They gathered together to look at it. It was indeed Xiao Bao's handwriting. Xiao Bao's handwriting was different from other people's handwriting. The middle part of the handwriting was straight and rigid, while the surrounding parts were erratic and unpredictable. It wasn't like Cuckoo's handwriting, which was guarded and didn't stop, but looked for the edges. It was soft and firm, and the tip of the pen hid the tip of the blade. It looked like it was written by a woman, but it was impossible to guess the woman's temperament. Not bad, or it could be considered a small achievement. But Xiao Bao's handwriting had been practiced for a long time, but it was still very confusing. If one looked carefully, one could see the knife light and sword shadows, and there were loopholes everywhere, which made people not dare to enter. After staring at it for a long time, they felt like they had entered a trap, which was very uncomfortable. That's right, the handwriting now was like that. Maybe it was a letter from home, but it didn't pay attention to the structure of the writing, so it was very simple. Father, I reckon that they will use another method. That is, when purchasing food at a high price, they will suddenly lower the price and raise the price of other goods. I thought about it, and with that little trick of theirs, the biggest possibility is that they will raise the price of poultry and livestock to a very high price. It's not a big deal. If it's someone who knows a little about economics, they will think that the other party is trying to change the target of their attack. But what I think is that the other party doesn't have enough funds, so they will release a small amount of goods in anticipation of the next step of raising the price. We can first release the news that there is a large amount of food coming to Jiannan, but we can't really release the food that our family is transporting from other places. Our goal is to give others, other than the other party, the impression that the price reduction was due to our family behind the scenes. Let's not worry about the price increase of poultry and livestock for now. We must stabilize the price of salt and oil first, especially the price of salt. Let them do whatever they want with meat. If the price of food is low and the price of meat is high, then it's fake. If they raise the price of food again after a short period of time, then our family will focus on the transportation of goods. Originally, I didn't want to take it out now, because that would make it seem like I'm using other means in this economic war. Although this is a very normal matter, I don't like it. It's just that the road is being repaired, so it won't be good if we don't take it out. As long as the price of food rises again, returning to the price before the price reduction, or even higher, we will take out our three-wheel truck and directly attack the transportation industry. They will be fools. Just like in normal military warfare, they are playing with unconventional moves. If he wants to build a plank road, we will take drastic measures to deal with him. We will catch him off guard and attack him when he is unprepared. We must not accept the grain they release. It is easy for them to fall into a trap. Son Xiao Bao, that you're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.